For over 5,000 years, the sands of Egypt have whispered the secrets of a civilization whose mysteries still defy explanation. From the towering pyramids that pierce the sky to the silent mummies lying in their tombs, ancient Egypt remains a land of unsolved riddles. How did the Egyptians possess such advanced knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering centuries before the rest of the world? What hidden truths lie beneath the surface of their elaborate rituals, their cryptic hieroglyphs, and their ancient beliefs? But there are questions that go beyond the reach of science, questions that shake the very foundation of what we know about human history. Why were some tombs sealed with such precise engineering, as if guarding something far more valuable than gold? How did the Egyptians achieve feats of construction that still baffle modern architects? And what, if anything, can we make of the strange, otherworldly objects found within their burial sites? These are the mysteries that have eluded us for centuries, secrets buried in the sands, waiting to be uncovered. So sit back, relax, and let's embark on a journey through time to explore the ancient riddles of Egypt that science can't explain. The sun set slowly over the arid desert of Upper Egypt, casting long shadows over the ruins of a forgotten age. In the distance, the jagged outlines of the barren hills rise like silent sentinels, guarding secrets buried beneath the shifting sands. Amidst this desolation lies one of the most perplexing mysteries of the ancient world, the legend of the Egyptian Scorpion King. The name itself, Scorpion King, may evoke images of myth and fiction, but in reality, it represents one of the earliest and most enigmatic figures in Egyptian history. Who was he? And why does his story seem to slip through the cracks of recorded history, leaving behind little more than cryptic symbols and fading inscriptions? The journey to understand the Scorpion King begins not with the popularized myths of Hollywood, but with the discovery of a set of ancient artifacts that have defied explanation for nearly a century. Among them is a limestone mace head, discovered in 1900 by the archaeologist Sir Alan Gardner at a site called Tel El Farka. The artifact, adorned with the image of a scorpion, its stinger poised for an unseen strike, has become the focal point of a mystery that, even now, eludes the grasp of modern scholars. The inscription on the mace head identifies its owner as Scorpion I, a title that has sparked fierce debate within the academic community. Some regard him as a semi-mythical ruler, possibly a regional leader in Egypt's pre-dynastic era, while others believe he may have been one of the first to lay the foundations of Egyptian civilization itself. The object's intricacy, combined with the power implied by the scorpion motif, hints at a king who wielded not only physical might but spiritual authority, someone who understood the significance of symbols and their potential to shape power. But this enigmatic artifact is just one piece of the puzzle. The Scorpion King's story is fragmented, lost in time. The archaeological evidence that could reveal more about his reign is sparse, but there are hints, small clues that suggest a greater mystery at play. One such clue comes from Abydos, the ancient necropolis and religious center that has yielded some of Egypt's most important discoveries. Here, on a fragment of pottery from the early dynastic period, another scorpion symbol appears. Its connection to the title of the Scorpion King is clear, but the specifics remain elusive. Was the king of the scorpion emblem merely a local ruler, or did his reign encompass a much larger part of Egypt? Most scholars agree that the Scorpion King predated the first true pharaoh, Narmer, who is traditionally credited with unifying Upper and Lower Egypt around 3100 BCE. However, the relationship between these two rulers is still a subject of great intrigue. Was the Scorpion King one of the many kings who reigned before Egypt's unification, or did he play a direct role in this monumental event? Some even speculate that the Scorpion King might have been Narmer's predecessor, a figure whose legacy was overshadowed by the more famous Pharaoh, who united Egypt with the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. There are also other intriguing aspects of the Scorpion King's reign that remain shrouded in mystery. One theory suggests that the Scorpion King ruled during a time of significant upheaval, when Egypt was not yet a unified kingdom but a land of competing city-states. The scorpion motif, in this context, may symbolize not only his personal identity, but also his role as a warrior king in a time of chaos. The scorpion, often associated with venom and death, could have been a powerful symbol of the king's strength, a warning to those who dared challenge his rule. But there are more speculative elements surrounding the Scorpion King's reign that some scholars have found compelling. One of the more fringe theories suggests that the Scorpion King's symbolism was not merely political, but linked to a broader spiritual or mystical tradition, one that reached far beyond the borders of Egypt. Was the Scorpion King a representative of a secretive, ancient order that predates the Egyptian dynasties? Could his rule be tied to the shadowy world of the Anunnaki, the enigmatic gods mentioned in Sumerian mythology, who some believe played a role in the origins of human civilization? While this theory remains speculative, the connections between the Scorpion King and ancient mythologies of the Near East are enough to spark curiosity. Even the tomb of the Scorpion King remains elusive. Unlike the grand tombs of later pharaohs, whose elaborate burial sites have been uncovered over the centuries, no definitive tomb has been linked to this mysterious ruler. The lack of a tomb, one that would normally serve as the final resting place for such an important figure, has led some to suggest that the Scorpion King may not have been buried in the traditional sense at all. Was his death hidden from history, perhaps even intentionally erased from the records by those who followed him? Or is it simply that the tomb remains undiscovered, still hidden beneath the sands, waiting for the right archaeologist to unearth it? Adding to the enigma is the nature of the Scorpion King's legacy. In the annals of Egyptian history, where gods, pharaohs, and dynasties are meticulously recorded, the Scorpion King's name is barely a whisper. His story seems to have been eclipsed by those who came after him, yet his influence may have shaped the foundations of Egyptian rule more profoundly than we realize. Was the Scorpion King merely a symbol of pre-dynastic Egypt, a king whose power and mystique have been lost to time? Or was he something more, perhaps a key figure in Egypt's transition from chaos to unity, whose impact was intentionally obscured in the historical narrative? As the sands of Egypt continue to shift, so too do the secrets buried beneath them. For now, the true story of the Scorpion King remains hidden, locked away in the mists of time. But one thing is certain: the mystery of this elusive ruler, with his deadly emblem and enigmatic reign, continues to beckon us into the depths of Egypt's forgotten past. And with every new discovery, the question remains: what other secrets lie buried beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? As we delve deeper into the vast landscape of Egypt's ancient history, we find ourselves standing before one of its most stunning and mysterious monuments, the tomb of Seti I. Located in the Valley of the Kings, one of the most revered burial sites in the ancient world, the tomb is not just a marvel of art and architecture. It is a puzzle that has captivated archaeologists, historians, and explorers for centuries. Seti I, the second pharaoh of Egypt's 19th dynasty, ruled during a time of military success and cultural flourishing. His tomb, KV-17, is a testament to both his power and his reverence for the gods. It is among the largest and most beautifully decorated tombs in the Valley of the Kings, its walls covered in intricate hieroglyphs, stunning reliefs, and scenes that transport us to a time of divine kingship. From the moment one enters the tomb, the atmosphere is thick with ancient echoes, as though the very air carries the weight of its buried secrets. The tomb itself is a masterpiece of architectural and artistic achievement. Stretching over 130 meters, it is one of the longest in the valley, with multiple chambers, corridors, and a grand burial chamber that once housed the pharaoh's sarcophagus. The walls are adorned with vivid scenes, depicting Seti in the afterlife, passing through various stages of judgment and preparation for eternity. Gods and goddesses, celestial beings, and sacred rituals are all brought to life in the vivid colors of the frescoes, offering a window into the spiritual world that the pharaoh sought to enter. Yet, despite the tomb's magnificence, there is an undeniable aura of mystery that clings to it. The tomb of Seti stands as a symbol not only of the ancient Egyptian belief in the afterlife, but also of the gaps in our understanding of their funerary practices and the forces that shaped their royal burial traditions. One of the most intriguing aspects of Seti I's tomb is its sheer scale. It is far larger and more complex than many of the other tombs in the Valley of the Kings, even those of later, more famous pharaohs such as Tutankhamun and Ramses II. Why, then, would Seti, a ruler who, while important, did not attain the legendary status of some of his successors, require such a monumental resting place? Was this a reflection of his personal ambition, or could it be indicative of something more profound, something connected to the very nature of his rule and the cosmic order he hoped to join in the afterlife? While these questions may never be fully answered, there are other peculiarities within the tomb that invite deeper speculation. For example, the tomb's architecture is unusually sophisticated. In many places, the layout of the tomb appears to be designed to mirror the journey of the sun god Ra through the underworld, an allegory of rebirth and resurrection that was central to Egyptian cosmology. Some researchers have suggested that Seti's tomb was more than just a royal burial. It could have been intended as a spiritual blueprint, carefully designed to ensure the pharaoh's successful passage into the afterlife and his continued influence on the living world. But perhaps the most tantalizing mystery of Seti's tomb lies within its discovery and subsequent history. The tomb was uncovered in 1817 by the Italian explorer Giovanni Belzoni, and at the time the world was just beginning to glimpse the vast treasures hidden within the Valley of the Kings. What Belzoni and his team found in Seti's tomb was not just a well-preserved burial site, but a place that seemed to have been untouched by time. Yet, over the years, it has become clear that the tomb, despite its relatively recent discovery, has been the subject of strange events, including thefts and unexplained disturbances. In 1922, when the tomb of Tutankhamun was discovered, there were whispers of a curse tied to the tombs of Egypt's pharaohs. While many dismissed these tales as superstition, the mysterious circumstances surrounding Seti I's tomb and the fate of those involved in its discovery have led some to wonder if there might be more to these stories than mere folklore. Was Seti's tomb somehow different from the others? Was it imbued with a special energy, or did it hide something that modern researchers have yet to understand? Moreover, the burial chamber itself has its own set of anomalies. The stone sarcophagus, while still present, is notably empty, its lid having been removed long before Belzoni's arrival. Some historians suggest that it was removed during the reign of Ramses II, possibly because the tomb had been repurposed for another royal burial. Others speculate that Seti I's body was never placed there at all, perhaps because it was moved to a different location at some point in antiquity. If this is the case, why would such an important pharaoh's remains be displaced? And what might have happened to his body? Even the elaborate wall reliefs, which are considered some of the finest examples of Egyptian art, have sparked questions. The scenes depict Seti in the presence of various gods, undergoing trials and tribulations on his journey to the afterlife. But there are inconsistencies in the way certain gods are represented, as if the scenes were altered or incomplete. Did these discrepancies have a specific meaning, or were they the result of incomplete work by the artisans of the time? And what of the curious inclusion of certain symbols and figures that appear nowhere else in Egyptian art, suggesting influences, perhaps from distant lands or forgotten traditions, that have yet to be fully understood? Adding another layer to this mystery are the ancient texts that accompany the tomb's reliefs. These inscriptions, which describe the pharaoh's journey through the afterlife, also contain references to divine forces and celestial events that seem to have been lost to history. Some researchers have speculated that these texts may be the key to understanding the spiritual significance of Seti Waper's burial, and perhaps even his role in the larger narrative of Egypt's divine kingship. Yet, despite numerous attempts to decode these cryptic writings, much of the text remains shrouded in mystery. The tomb of Seti Waper, like many of Egypt's ancient sites, is a place where history, art, and myth converge. It is a space where the past continues to hold secrets, and where the line between what is known and what remains unknown is tantalizingly thin. The more we uncover about this magnificent burial site, the more questions arise, questions that continue to defy easy answers. What truly lies beneath the stone walls of Seti Waper's tomb? What does the unusual scale and design of the tomb reveal about the pharaoh's vision for his afterlife? And, perhaps most perplexing of all, why has Seti Waper's final resting place been the subject of such mystery and intrigue throughout the centuries? These are questions that, for now, remain unanswered. But as we continue to peel back the layers of time, one thing becomes certain. The tomb of Seti Waper is far more than just a royal burial place. It is a doorway to a deeper understanding of ancient Egypt's sacred traditions, and a reminder that some mysteries are never fully meant to be solved. As the warm desert wind sweeps across the Valley of the Kings, its currents whisper through the ancient monuments and tombs that line the landscape. Here, in this sacred ground, the dead are not merely forgotten. They are preserved in the intricate artistry and profound symbolism of their tombs, where the journey into the afterlife begins. Among the many relics of Egypt's funerary traditions, one object stands out for its haunting beauty and enigmatic significance: the Egyptian death mask. Perhaps the most famous of these death masks is that of Tutankhamun, whose golden visage, famous for its delicate features and regal headdress, has become a symbol of ancient Egypt's fascination with death and immortality. But the death mask of Tutankhamun is merely the most celebrated in a long tradition of mask-making, which spans dynasties and centuries, and whose true purpose remains shrouded in mystery. These masks, crafted with astonishing skill, were placed over the faces of the deceased pharaohs and nobles, carefully sculpted to capture their likeness for eternity. But why did the Egyptians go to such lengths to create these stunning, lifelike representations of their rulers? What were they meant to achieve? And what secrets might lie hidden behind the gilded and jeweled faces that continue to captivate us today? The art of creating death masks in Egypt can be traced back to the earliest dynastic periods, though it reached its height during the New Kingdom, around 1,000 years before the reign of Tutankhamun. The materials varied from wood to cartonnage, a type of plastered linen, but the goal remained the same: to preserve the physical features of the deceased for the afterlife, ensuring that their soul, or ka, could recognize its body when it returned. The ancient Egyptians believed that the soul needed to be reunited with its body in the next life to achieve a successful transition to eternity. The death mask, therefore, was not just an artistic representation. It was a conduit to the afterlife itself. The most famous death mask, that of Tutankhamun, is a masterwork of craftsmanship, made from gold, inlaid with lapis lazuli, turquoise, and quartz. The gleaming mask captures the youthful pharaoh in his most regal state, with a serene expression that belies the tragic end to his short life. The eyes, carefully crafted from inlaid materials, seem to peer out of the mask, their gaze fixed eternally on the world beyond. In the careful symmetry and lifelike quality of the mask, one can sense the reverence with which the ancient Egyptians approached their kings, and the significance of their roles as mediators between the gods and humanity. But while the beauty of the mask is undeniable, its deeper significance remains open to interpretation. The ancient Egyptians did not view death as an end, but rather as a passage to another realm. The creation of the death mask was not just about preserving a likeness. It was a ritual act intended to safeguard the soul's passage to the afterlife. In this sense, the mask was a physical manifestation of the pharaoh's identity, ensuring that he would be recognized and accepted by the gods, and that his ka would be able to return to the body. Yet, despite this widely accepted interpretation, there is still much about the death mask tradition that remains unexplained. How did the ancient Egyptians achieve such astonishing precision in their craftsmanship? While they had access to an array of tools and materials, many of their methods seem far ahead of their time. For instance, the gilded mask of Tutankhamun, which weighs over 10 kilograms of pure gold, is incredibly thin and finely detailed, with features that are almost lifelike. The intricacy of these masks, especially when compared to other artifacts from the same period, raises questions about how such delicate, precise work was done without the advanced technology we take for granted today. Some scholars have speculated that the Egyptians possessed knowledge or techniques that have been lost to history, perhaps even a deeper understanding of material science. Others have suggested that the ancient craftsmen may have employed methods passed down through secret traditions, techniques that were shared only within select priesthoods or artisan guilds. Could there have been a level of skill or esoteric knowledge within the culture that modern researchers have yet to uncover? The mystery deepens further when we consider the symbolic and metaphysical purpose of these masks. While the primary function was to preserve the likeness of the deceased, some scholars have proposed that the masks may have served as a form of magical protection. By capturing the likeness of the pharaoh, it is said that the mask allowed the soul to return to the body during the night, preventing it from being stolen or harmed by malevolent forces in the underworld. In this view, the mask becomes more than a simple funerary object. It becomes a powerful talisman, a bridge between the living and the dead. Moreover, there is an intriguing connection between the death masks and other Egyptian religious practices. The depiction of the gods and goddesses on the masks, often seen in the headdress or ornamentation, suggests that these royal masks were not just representations of the deceased, but were also charged with divine energy. This raises an unsettling question. Were the masks themselves thought to be imbued with magical properties? Could the royal visage, once created, serve as a vessel for the gods' protection or power? Did the very act of creating the mask transform the dead into something more than human? Something divine? While most death masks are associated with royalty, particularly during the New Kingdom, there are also examples of masks created for non-royal individuals, typically in more modest materials like wood or plaster. These masks, though less intricate, were nonetheless deeply symbolic, serving the same purpose: to ensure the safe passage of the soul to the afterlife. The use of such masks, even by the common people, suggests a broader cultural belief in the necessity of preserving identity and dignity beyond death. However, it is not only the art and material of the death masks that raise questions. There are also stories of curses and unexplained phenomena surrounding these masks. Some researchers claim that the famous curse of Tutankhamun, said to have befall those involved in the tomb's discovery, could have been linked to the power of his death mask. Was there something about the mask, something deeply embedded in its symbolism that had the potential to exert influence over the living world? Whether rooted in superstition or some hidden truth, these eerie tales persist in the popular imagination, adding an extra layer of intrigue to the masks. One of the most intriguing and lesser-known mysteries concerns the discovery of a mask at the tomb of Seti Wawars. Unlike the mask of Tutankhamun, Seti Wami's mask was made of cartonnage, a substance of linen and plaster, but it displayed a level of craftsmanship that suggests the artisans had a much deeper understanding of the metaphysical power of these objects. Why, then, did the tomb of Seti Wais, one of Egypt's greatest rulers, hold such an unusual mask? Was it symbolic of a deeper, hidden belief system, one that stretched beyond mere physical preservation? Or did it signify something about Seti Wami's belief in his immortality that was not seen in the simpler, more traditional masks of the period? The mystery of the Egyptian death masks, like much of Egypt's ancient legacy, remains only partially understood. While we know much about their artistic brilliance and cultural significance, the deeper metaphysical implications of these masks, their purpose as more than just protective coverings, are still shrouded in mystery. What knowledge did the ancient Egyptians possess about death, the afterlife, and the spiritual realm that might explain the extraordinary attention to detail and symbolism in these objects? As we continue to uncover the treasures and tombs of ancient Egypt, one thing remains certain. These death masks, with their cold, lifeless eyes, will continue to fascinate us, their mysteries waiting to be unraveled, if we are ever able to understand them fully. What secrets still lie beneath the gilded surface, waiting to be uncovered? Shimmering sheen of gold, the same hue that has come to symbolize one of Egypt's greatest rulers, Narmer, the man credited with uniting Upper and Lower Egypt. The Nile, long regarded as the lifeblood of the Egyptian civilization, is said to have witnessed a transformation that would shape the future of a mighty empire. And at the center of this transformation stands Narmer, a figure whose identity, despite being a cornerstone of Egypt's history, remains elusive, shrouded in the mists of time and myth. In the ancient Egyptian world, where dynasties and rulers rose and fell with the cycles of the Nile, Narmer occupies a uniquely pivotal place. He is often regarded as the first pharaoh of Egypt, though his reign, around 3100 BCE, predates the formal establishment of Egypt's dynastic history. Yet, despite his significance, we know surprisingly little about him. He is a figure of both historical importance and enigma, a king whose very name, etched into stone, carries the weight of an entire civilization's origins. The primary evidence we have of Narmer comes from a single remarkable artifact, the Narmer palette, a large, intricately carved stone slab that is believed to depict the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. Discovered in 1898 in the ruins of the ancient city of Hierakonpolis, the palette has been hailed as one of the most important archaeological finds in Egypt's history. Its vivid reliefs are a testament to the early Egyptian mastery of art and symbolism, and the events it appears to depict are as monumental as they are mysterious. On one side of the palette, Narmer is shown wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt, while on the other he wears the red crown of Lower Egypt, symbols of the two lands that he is believed to have unified. In his right hand, Narmer grasps a mace, poised to strike down an enemy, while in his left hand he holds a prisoner by the hair. This dramatic scene, often interpreted as a symbolic representation of Narmer's conquest of Lower Egypt, is not just a depiction of military might, but a potent visual statement of divine authority and kingship. Yet, while the unification of Egypt seems to be a central theme of the Narmer palette, the context of the events it depicts, and the man himself, remains uncertain. How much of what we see in the artwork is history, and how much is symbolism? Was Narmer a conqueror, as the palette suggests? Or was his role more diplomatic, consolidating power through marriage or alliances? Some have even questioned whether Narmer was a single individual or a composite figure representing the unification of two warring kingdoms. Beyond the striking scenes on the palette, Narmer's identity is further obscured by the lack of contemporary records. No known inscriptions from his time remain outside of the Narmer palette and a handful of other artifacts. His tomb, unlike those of later pharaohs, has yet to be definitively identified, leaving us to wonder, where was he buried? And why does his reign remain so sparsely documented, especially for a king credited with such an immense historical achievement? One theory that has been suggested is that Narmer's historical importance may have been overshadowed by later rulers who sought to claim the legacy of Egypt's unification for themselves. Pharaohs like Djoser, Sneferu, and Khufu, who left behind grand monuments and were immortalized in monumental tombs and temples, may have eclipsed Narmer's image over time. This theory would imply that Narmer, despite being the first unifier of Egypt, did not leave behind the monumental architectural achievements that we associate with pharaohs of the Old Kingdom. The absence of a grand tomb or massive statues may suggest that Narmer's role as a ruler was seen through a different lens, one more symbolic than physical. Another theory points to the possibility that Narmer may have been a figurehead, not a ruler in the traditional sense, but someone whose role was more religious or ceremonial in nature. Some scholars speculate that Narmer's unification of Egypt was not the result of military conquest but of political and religious consolidation, wherein a priestly class may have used Narmer's symbolic authority to bring the two lands together under a unified religious system. After all, Egypt's kings were often seen as intermediaries between the gods and the people. Was Narmer's unification the result of divine will rather than conquest? If so, did Narmer himself see his role as one of spiritual guidance rather than military domination? In considering these theories, we must also account for the role of myth and legend in shaping the early dynastic period. Egypt's gods and goddesses were central to the formation of the state, and the concept of divine kingship permeated every aspect of Egyptian life. Narmer's name itself, often read as Mene or Mernith in various inscriptions, means he who has established order, suggesting a ruler chosen by the gods to restore balance. If Narmer was indeed seen as a divine figure, how much of his story was shaped by the spiritual beliefs of his time rather than by the historical record? This brings us to another fascinating aspect of Narmer's legacy, his relationship with the gods. The Egyptians believed that their pharaohs were not just rulers, but gods on earth, incarnations of Horus, the sky god, and later Ra, the sun god. If Narmer was indeed the first ruler to bear this divine title, what implications did that have for the perception of his reign? Did Narmer view himself as a god? And what might his reign have meant for the consolidation of Egypt's pantheon of gods? The mystery of Narmer's life and reign extends beyond just questions of conquest or unification. The physical legacy he left behind is sparse, but his symbolic legacy looms large. The Narmer palette remains one of the most studied artifacts of ancient Egypt, its imagery studied and debated for over a century. Yet, despite the many theories, no single explanation has been universally accepted. The mystery deepens when we consider the absence of later inscriptions or records from Narmer's reign. Unlike subsequent pharaohs, who were known for their monumental building projects and extensive inscriptions, Narmer's legacy is preserved primarily through his image and symbolic acts. Why did later rulers leave little trace of Narmer's existence, despite his pivotal role in the creation of Egypt's unified state? And what of the possible connections between Narmer and later dynasties? Some scholars have proposed that the reign of Narmer marks the beginning of Egypt's dynastic history, while others argue that his reign was a continuation of earlier traditions. Could Narmer have been the culmination of centuries of political and religious developments, or did he represent a break from previous norms? The lack of clear answers only adds to the allure of this enigmatic figure. What remains clear is that Narmer's reign set the stage for the rise of one of the most powerful and enduring civilizations the world has ever known. His legacy, hidden behind layers of symbolism and myth, remains one of Egypt's greatest mysteries. As we continue to explore the earliest days of Egyptian history, we are left with more questions than answers. Who was Narmer, really? Was he a conqueror, a symbol, or a divine ruler? And what other secrets might his reign hold, waiting to be uncovered by future generations of archaeologists and historians? In the shadow of the Great Pyramids and the temples of Karnak, Narmer's name may have been obscured by time, but his impact as the first unifier of Egypt endures. Perhaps the mystery of Narmer is not just one of identity, but one of divine purpose, a riddle that continues to echo through the centuries. The Valley of the Queens, nestled along the western bank of the Nile River, is a place where silence holds centuries of secrets. It is a solemn stretch of land where the tombs of Egypt's royal wives and queens rest, bathed in the shadows of the imposing Valley of the Kings. Here, amidst the desolate beauty of Egypt's arid heartland, one tomb stands apart from all others, the tomb of Queen Nefertari. Nefertari, the beloved wife of Pharaoh Ramses II, was not just a queen in title, but one of the most powerful women in ancient Egypt. Her tomb, discovered in 1904 by the Italian archaeologist Antonio M. and Giovanni Belzoni, is one of the most visually stunning and mysterious ever uncovered. Hidden deep within the Valley of the Queens, it lies far less disturbed than many others, preserving much of its original splendor and leaving behind clues to an enigmatic past that continue to haunt archaeologists and historians alike. The tomb, designated as QV66, is not large by the standards of Pharaoh's tombs, but it is renowned for the extraordinary beauty of its paintings and the remarkable craftsmanship of its design. Entering the tomb is like stepping back in time. The walls are adorned with vividly colored scenes depicting Nefertari in various poses of reverence to the gods and goddesses of Egypt. Her image is often shown in life-size proportions, more monumental than the typical representations of queens, underscoring her special status in the Egyptian court. In these frescoes, she is seen making offerings to Isis, Horus, and Ra, while her husband, Ramses II, is shown alongside her in some of the scenes, a testament to the mutual respect and admiration between them. However, it is not only the grandeur of the tomb's artwork that captivates the imagination. There is something more elusive and mysterious in the air, something about the tomb's location, its isolation, and its contents that seems to hint at a deeper, unspoken secret. Why was Nefertari's tomb given such extraordinary attention? Why did Ramses II, a pharaoh who had many wives, dedicate so much effort to the construction of a tomb that, by all accounts, should have been reserved for a king, not a queen? Nefertari's title was Great Royal Wife, and her prominence was unprecedented. She was not only the chief consort of Ramses II, but also a powerful political figure in her own right, actively participating in diplomatic missions and ceremonial duties. Yet despite her apparent importance, very little is known about her life, and fewer still are the records that speak to her reign as queen. Much of what we know about Nefertari comes from the tomb itself, but even the tomb does not fully illuminate her role in Egypt's complex history. It leaves us with many questions. Why did she receive such an exceptional tomb? Was it a result of her love for Ramses, or was there another, more spiritual or political reason behind it? One of the most curious aspects of Nefertari's tomb is its elaborate frescoes and hieroglyphs, which blend Egyptian mythology with personal depictions of the queen. In one of the tomb's most striking scenes, Nefertari is shown embracing Isis, the goddess of wisdom and magic, while in another, she is depicted with Ra, the sun god. The imagery is undeniably symbolic, but it raises a key question. To what extent was Nefertari's tomb designed to reflect her divine connection, her personal spirituality, or her relationship with the gods? While queens were often deified in death, Nefertari's depiction seems to suggest a particularly intimate bond with the divine. The frescoes themselves, vivid in their color and detail, provide a deeper level of mystery. The artists of the tomb used a technique known as fresco secco, where pigments were applied to dry plaster, a process that resulted in extraordinary durability and stunning colors. Yet, how did the artists manage to create such finely detailed works with seemingly primitive tools? The level of detail in the tomb's paintings is so precise that it seems to defy the technical limitations of the era, prompting some scholars to wonder if these artists possessed a level of knowledge and craftsmanship that has since been lost to history. What makes the tomb even more fascinating, however, is its location. While the Valley of the Kings is home to many royal tombs, the Valley of the Queens is generally reserved for the wives and children of pharaohs. Nefertari's tomb, however, is not just any tomb. It's among the most luxurious and complex ever discovered in the valley. There are many tombs within the valley, but few feature such high levels of artistry or grandeur. Was Nefertari's tomb meant to reflect the scale and status of a royal burial, despite the fact that she was not a pharaoh? And if so, what does that tell us about the status of women in ancient Egypt, particularly in the royal court? One of the most striking elements of Nefertari's tomb is its unusual size and complexity. The tomb, unlike most other royal tombs of the period, features a series of passages and chambers, each filled with symbolic representations of the journey to the afterlife. The interior of the tomb is divided into 4 main chambers, each dedicated to different gods and goddesses, with an array of inscriptions and paintings that describe the queen's journey to immortality. The imagery suggests not only a physical journey, but a spiritual one, a journey of transformation. Did Nefertari view her death not as an end, but as a continuation of her existence in the divine world? Was the tomb a space meant to bridge this world and the next? The tomb of Nefertari also contains a number of mysterious artifacts, including an over-life-sized statue of Nefertari herself, depicted in a stance of reverence before the gods. Yet, despite these stunning finds, there are also elements that have yet to be fully understood. For example, the tomb contains no inscriptions detailing Nefertari's burial rites, an anomaly in Egyptian royal tombs. What did the lack of such rituals signify? Was it an oversight, or did the tomb's builders intentionally choose not to inscribe these details for reasons that remain hidden? Another mystery lies in the tomb's discovery and preservation. Unlike many other tombs that have been looted over the centuries, Nefertari's tomb remains relatively intact, a fact that has prompted questions regarding its preservation and the way it was treated over time. Was this intentional? Some researchers believe that the tomb may have been sealed off for a reason, perhaps to protect its sacred contents from thieves or to preserve its sanctity. Why then did it remain undiscovered for so long? Despite the considerable information available, the question of who Nefertari really was, beyond the queen consort of Ramses II, remains tantalizingly elusive. Was she merely a beloved wife, or was there something more to her than has been passed down in historical accounts? Was her tomb a reflection of her personal power and influence, or did it serve as a symbol of something larger, the divine connection between Egypt's rulers and the gods they served? As we stand at the threshold of Nefertari's tomb, gazing upon the mesmerizing frescoes and pondering the mysteries embedded in its walls, we are left with a multitude of unanswered questions. What deeper truths does this tomb hold, and what secrets might still lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered in the shadows of Nefertari's eternal resting place? Nestled between the ancient Nile and the vast desert, The city of Luxor is often regarded as the heart of Egypt's past, a living museum filled with the remnants of the pharaohs, their grand tombs, and their monuments to immortality. But beyond the well-known temples of Karnak and the sprawling funerary structures of the Valley of the Kings, there lies a more recent discovery, a secret that remained buried for centuries. In 2020, an archaeological team led by Zahi Hawass uncovered a remarkable find: a golden city, thought to have been established during the reign of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, one of Egypt's most prosperous and enigmatic rulers. Located near Luxor, the site was hidden beneath the sands, untouched and remarkably well preserved. What made this city, now referred to as the Rise of Aten, so extraordinary was not only its age, but its condition. Much of it was left intact, frozen in time as though awaiting discovery. The more archaeologists delved into this hidden city, the more questions arose. The Golden City, with its network of streets, homes, and workshops, reveals a detailed snapshot of daily life in Egypt over 3,000 years ago. However, what raises the most intrigue is its sudden abandonment, as well as its unparalleled state of preservation. What caused the city to be left behind? Was it a catastrophic event, or was there a more subtle reason that led to its swift disappearance from the historical record? As you stand at the entrance of the Golden City, it is easy to imagine the bustling life that once filled its streets. The ruins reveal evidence of the city's infrastructure: walls, roads, and foundations that stretch far beyond the excavated areas. Ancient pottery, tools, and personal items are scattered throughout, giving us glimpses into the lives of those who once lived there. But what truly stands out is the presence of artifacts such as gold jewelry, precious stones, and statues, remnants of a civilization that knew great wealth and luxury. Yet the most striking feature of the Golden City is the wealth of furnishings and artifacts left behind. Here, amidst the ruins, archaeologists discovered large quantities of detailed pottery, mummified remains, and even the remains of animals. The site also revealed tombs, though they were unlike any seen before, smaller and more modest than those of the pharaohs, but still containing precious items, hinting at the lives of individuals who may have been closely tied to the royal family. What role did the people of this city play in the court of Amenhotep III? Did they live alongside the king in his royal court? Or were they workers and craftsmen, serving the needs of Egypt's elite? The Golden City is often referred to as the lost city of Luxor, but it wasn't truly lost. For centuries, the locals knew of the city's presence, but had no way of understanding its full significance. It wasn't until modern archaeological techniques were employed that the site's importance became apparent. But what secrets were hiding in plain sight all along? Could it be that this city was deliberately hidden for a reason, lost not to time, but to an intentional act of erasure? As researchers painstakingly catalog the artifacts found at the site, several unanswered questions begin to surface. Why was such an extraordinary city abandoned so quickly and mysteriously? Some theories suggest that it may have been a result of economic decline during the end of Amenhotep III's reign, possibly linked to a broader political or military upheaval. Others speculate that it might have been an attempt to distance the city from the changing religious landscape brought on by the reign of Akhenaten, Amenhotep III's successor, who famously introduced the monotheistic worship of the sun god Aten, thereby shifting Egypt's religious focus. Perhaps it was Akhenaten's reign that brought the collapse of the city, as the old polytheistic beliefs that permeated daily life were swept away. The city of Aten, however, had an unstable and controversial life of its own, eventually abandoned in favor of returning to the traditional gods of Egypt. Could it be that the Golden City itself had become a symbol of Egypt's old ways, which were discarded in favor of a new and untested vision? Was the city's fate a casualty of this tumultuous shift in Egypt's political and religious spheres? Another mystery surrounding the Golden City lies in the construction techniques employed. The city's buildings are remarkably well preserved, despite the ravages of time. The layout is organized with careful planning, revealing advanced understanding of urban design and architecture. The streets are wide and lined with homes that seem to reflect a deep consideration of both space and function. How was such a vast city constructed with the resources available during this period? Was the city designed to reflect a utopian vision of Egypt, or was it simply a practical urban planning solution for a bustling, growing civilization? Of particular interest is the discovery of mysterious seals, a common form of inscription in ancient Egypt, bearing the name of Amenhotep III. These seals point to an organized and centralized authority overseeing the city's development. But what was the true purpose of this city? Was it a temporary royal retreat, a vibrant center of administration, or an industrial hub that served as a manufacturing base for the elite? Could the city have been a key place for royal ceremonies or worship? Or did it serve a more specific function that is still elusive, lost in the sands of time? One of the most compelling aspects of the Golden City is the continuing lack of knowledge about its inhabitants. Despite the discovery of many everyday items, human remains, and tombs, the identities of those who lived in this remarkable place remain largely unknown. Were they merely workers, or were they more closely connected to Egypt's royal family and elite class? Could it be that the Golden City was home to a significant but forgotten portion of ancient Egyptian society, whose contributions and influence remain shrouded in mystery? The mysterious disappearance of the city is a subject of great debate. Some have suggested that it was abandoned due to the political upheaval following the death of Amenhotep III, while others point to the religious transformation brought about by his son Akhenaten. Could there be another, more cryptic reason for the city's sudden abandonment? Was there a hidden or supernatural force at play, an ancient curse, a secret pact, or an undiscovered event that led to the city's fall? As the excavation of the Golden City continues, more questions arise, and its secrets only deepen. The golden artifacts, the well-preserved structures, and the rich history buried beneath the sands all contribute to an ongoing enigma that still refuses to reveal its true nature. What remains hidden beneath the surface? What truths have yet to be uncovered? And how might they rewrite our understanding of ancient Egyptian history? Standing before the remains of the Golden City, one cannot help but wonder, how many more cities, hidden beneath the sands, await rediscovery? And what will we learn when we finally uncover the mysteries that time has kept buried for millennia? As the sun sets over the desolate sands of Egypt, casting long shadows on the horizon, the pyramids of Abu Sur rise in the distance, their weathered faces barely distinguishing themselves from the vast desert landscape. Lesser known than the towering pyramids of Giza, these monuments hold their own mysteries, quiet, seemingly forgotten, yet rich with unanswered questions. Located to the northwest of Saqqara, the pyramids of Abu Sur belong to the 5th dynasty of Egypt, an era marked by both political stability and architectural ambition. The 5 pyramids at Abu Sir, though not as grand or renowned as their counterparts, offer an intimate glimpse into the evolution of pyramid construction, and perhaps into the more personal and enigmatic aspects of royal Egypt. Unlike the towering pyramids of Giza, which were constructed with a precision that has inspired wonder and awe for millennia, the Abu Sur pyramids appear more fragile, their smooth outer casing long eroded, leaving jagged remnants of what were once marvels of engineering. But what is it about this relatively modest cluster of pyramids that continues to intrigue both archaeologists and curious minds alike? What is it about their construction and their sudden abandonment that raises so many questions? The largest of the pyramids at Abu Sir belongs to Pharaoh Sahura, the first king of the 5th dynasty. His pyramid, though smaller than those of the Old Kingdom's great pharaohs, still demonstrates the innovative spirit of the time. But while it may not have the sheer scale of Giza, its design incorporates distinct features, suggesting an evolving vision of pyramid architecture. The pyramid's entrance is notably asymmetrical, an oddity in Egyptian design that has left scholars puzzled. Could it have been an intentional deviation from tradition, or was it a miscalculation in the pursuit of architectural perfection? Some speculate that this feature may represent a deeper symbolic meaning, something lost to time and the sands of Egypt. Adjacent to Sahura's pyramid lie those of other lesser-known rulers of the 5th dynasty, Nefertari Kakai, Shepseskare, and Neferefre. These pyramids, though smaller and less imposing, also hold remnants of grand designs. In some ways, the relatively humble dimensions of the pyramids at Abu Sir challenge the notion of the greatness associated with Egypt's royal structures. They raise a question that has yet to be fully answered. What was the purpose of these pyramids, built for kings whose names are not as widely recognized as those of their predecessors or successors? Among the mysteries that linger at Abu Sir is the absence of significant burial goods within the pyramids. Unlike the tombs of Giza, which were filled with treasures, statues, and other symbols of royal wealth, the tombs at Abu Sir appear far more modest. Why were these kings buried with so little? Some experts argue that the lack of wealth in these tombs reflects the changing fortunes of Egypt's rulers. Perhaps these pharaohs, though still considered kings, were not as powerful or influential as their predecessors. Or perhaps this was a conscious decision, a shift in royal burial customs. But the lack of grand offerings still invites speculation. Further intrigue surrounds the construction of the pyramids themselves. The material used in the construction of Abu Sir's pyramids is notably different from that of Giza. While the Great Pyramids of the 4th dynasty were built from large limestone blocks, the Abu Sir pyramids were constructed using softer limestone, which would have been easier to quarry but not as durable. This raises the question, why was this choice made? Was it an effort to conserve resources, or did it signify a shift in the way the ancient Egyptians viewed their monumental structures? The degradation of the pyramid surfaces over time may hold the answer. It's as though the materials themselves reflect the uncertain nature of these pharaohs' reigns, ephemeral and fading quickly into the past. But perhaps the most puzzling aspect of the Abu Sir pyramids is the mysterious and abandoned nature of the entire site. Unlike the bustling burial complex at Giza or the meticulously planned tombs at Saqqara, the Abu Sir pyramids seem to have been largely neglected after their construction. Few inscriptions were found at the site, and the pyramid's construction appears to have been unfinished. Why were they abandoned so quickly? Was there a political or environmental crisis that led to the swift halt in their construction? Could the kings who commissioned these pyramids have been overthrown or faced internal struggles that disrupted the building process? This abandonment has led some to suggest that the site was abandoned after a sudden and catastrophic event. Was there an invasion? Or was there a collapse of royal authority that caused the rulers of the 5th dynasty to lose interest in continuing their pyramid projects? Alternatively, some have posited that the changes in the Egyptian religious landscape, as the influence of the sun god Ra continued to grow, may have rendered such monumental tombs less relevant to the evolving spiritual beliefs of the time. Did the king's role change so drastically that the pyramids no longer symbolized his power in the same way? An additional enigma at Abu Sir is the discovery of several mastabas, or flat-roofed tombs, surrounding the pyramids. These tombs contain intricate carvings and reliefs that depict daily life, the king's journey to the afterlife, and elaborate scenes of ritual and offerings. But unlike other tombs, the reliefs at Abu Sir contain images that seem to suggest rituals of a more intimate or personal nature. This has led some scholars to theorize that the pharaohs of this dynasty were more focused on personal spirituality than on maintaining a grand public image. Were these private rituals meant to ensure the pharaoh's spiritual success rather than his eternal fame? The mystical significance of Abu Sur itself has also been a subject of fascination. Some claim that the pyramids at Abu Sur, while not as grand as those of Giza, were built with a different, more subtle type of energy in mind. Could it be that their placement and even their design were meant to harness or channel unseen forces of the land, creating a hidden connection between the pharaoh and the gods? Was the pyramid at Abu Sur not just a tomb, but a ritual object, an engine of spiritual power meant to sustain the pharaoh's immortality in ways we are only beginning to understand? Despite all the advances in modern archaeology, the pyramids of Abu Sur remain a place of fascination and mystery. They are not as well known as those of Giza or Saqqara, but they have their own stories to tell, locked away in the weathered stone. Every piece of broken limestone and every fragment of a forgotten relief seems to whisper a tale of kings, power, and an ancient society whose complexity eludes us even today. As excavation continues and technology advances, it is possible that some of these mysteries will eventually be solved. However, for now, the pyramids of Abu Sur stand as a testament to Egypt's often misunderstood Fifth Dynasty, their enigma only deepened by time. Perhaps one day we will finally understand the full story of these fascinating yet elusive monuments to Egypt's enduring mystery. Or perhaps they will remain, like so many other ancient wonders, forever shrouded in questions that never quite find answers. In the heart of Egypt, deep within the tombs of the ancient pharaohs, there lies a mystery that has intrigued scientists, archaeologists, and historians for centuries: the practice of mummification. It is a ritual that has become synonymous with ancient Egypt itself, a process both intricate and sacred, designed to preserve the dead for eternity. But even as modern science continues to unearth secrets from the tombs, the true methods and beliefs behind mummification remain shrouded in a web of wonder and ambiguity. Imagine standing before the tomb of a long-forgotten ruler, the stone walls cool and silent. Inside, amidst the shadows, the body of a pharaoh or noble rests in a state of perfect preservation. The face, though weathered, retains an expression of calm serenity, untouched by time. The body, bandaged in linen, carefully anointed with oils and resins, has been expertly preserved, its skin leathery but recognizable, a mirror of the living person it once was. This is mummification, a process that transcended mere preservation of the body. It was believed to be a gateway to the afterlife, a way of ensuring that the soul could continue its journey into eternity. The ritual itself is an enigma, one that we have only begun to understand. The Egyptians were masters of this art, but even they left few records that could guide us through their methods. What we do know is that mummification was not merely a burial practice. It was a spiritual process, one that sought to defy the ravages of time and nature. At the center of this mystery lies the question: how did the ancient Egyptians, with their rudimentary tools, achieve such remarkable preservation? The first step in mummification was the removal of the internal organs. This was a critical process, as the heart, lungs, stomach, and intestines were thought to be the seat of a person's life force. But in removing these organs, the embalmers did not simply discard them. They were preserved separately, each organ carefully treated and placed in a canopic jar. The heart, often considered the most important of all, was sometimes left in place, but in many cases, it was removed and replaced with a substitute, often made of resin or stone. Why would they do this? Was it a belief in the soul's journey beyond the physical body? Or was it an early form of medical understanding that we are only now beginning to comprehend? The next phase of mummification was the desiccation of the body. The corpse was covered in natron, a naturally occurring salt mixture that drew out the moisture from the body, preventing decay. This process took several weeks, during which the body would shrink and harden. The use of natron is one of the many elements that distinguish Egyptian mummification from the embalming practices of other ancient cultures. But even as scientists have studied the chemical properties of natron, questions remain. Why was it so effective? How did the Egyptians come to understand the unique properties of this substance, which they used in such large quantities, yet did not leave behind any written records of its precise application? Once the body had been desiccated, the next step was the careful wrapping of the deceased in linen bandages. The wrapping was done in layers, sometimes over several days, with each layer infused with oils and resins that helped to further preserve the body and seal it from the elements. The bandages were often adorned with amulets and charms, symbols of protection to ensure a safe journey to the afterlife. Yet some bodies show evidence of additional substances, unknown chemicals or oils that have yet to be identified. What were these substances, and why did the embalmers feel the need to include them? Some experts believe these substances may have had more mystical properties, perhaps an attempt to imbue the body with divine power or to ward off the forces of decay. The final, most striking element of mummification was the funeral mask. Made of gold, wood, or sometimes a combination of both, these masks were designed to resemble the deceased in life, serving as both a final tribute and a spiritual vessel. The most famous of these masks is the death mask of Tutankhamun, which has become a symbol of ancient Egypt itself. But what do these masks truly represent? Were they simply representations of the deceased, or did they serve a deeper, more complex function? Could they have been designed to ensure that the deceased's Ka, or life force, recognized its own form in the afterlife? Perhaps the mask was a key to unlocking the mysteries of the soul's journey, a guide for the dead to find their way home. But the mysteries of mummification do not end with the embalming process itself. Even the tombs where these mummies were placed hold their own secrets. Many of the pharaohs, most notably in the New Kingdom, were buried with an array of treasures: golden jewelry, statues, chariots, and even boats. But why? Was it merely to provide comfort in the afterlife, or did these items serve a more practical purpose? Some believe that the goods placed within these tombs were meant to ensure that the deceased had everything they needed for a successful journey to the afterlife. Others suggest that these objects might have been symbolic, representing the pharaoh's power and wealth even after death. But no matter the interpretation, the sheer abundance of burial items raises yet another question. What was the true purpose of these extravagant offerings? The mystery of mummification has only deepened in the modern era. While much has been learned through the use of technology, CT scans, DNA analysis, and chemical testing, new questions continue to arise. Recent studies have uncovered that many mummies, including those of high-ranking officials, display signs of diseases like malaria or arthritis, suggesting that even the wealthiest Egyptians were not immune to the frailties of the human body. But what does this mean for our understanding of their spiritual beliefs? Did they truly believe that the soul could transcend such limitations? Or were they simply using mummification as a way to cope with the harsh realities of life and death? One of the most intriguing aspects of mummification, however, lies in its ultimate purpose. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not an end, but a transition. The mummification process was designed to ensure that the soul would be able to continue its journey to the afterlife, a journey that would be filled with challenges and trials. In this sense, mummification was not simply about preserving the body, it was about protecting the soul from decay, from corruption, and from the forces of chaos. As the decades pass and more discoveries are made, one can't help but wonder, what is it that we still don't know about this ancient practice? What is it about the Egyptians' profound understanding of death, preservation, and the afterlife that continues to elude us? Even with our advanced technology, we are still left with questions that have no simple answers. Perhaps mummification was not just a process of physical preservation, but a spiritual one, an act of defiance against the inevitable forces of nature, and an attempt to wrestle with the mysteries of life, death, and eternity. Hidden beneath the sands of the Valley of the Kings, the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun stood for over 3,000 years, untouched and undisturbed, until one fateful day in 1922. When archaeologist Howard Carter first peered into the tomb's darkened interior, he uncovered one of the greatest treasures of ancient Egypt. The burial chamber was filled with extraordinary artifacts: golden chariots, jeweled masks, and, most famously, the iconic death mask of the young pharaoh. But what if we haven't uncovered all there is to know about Tutankhamun's tomb? Over the past century, historians and archaeologists have been painstakingly unraveling the mysteries surrounding the tomb. But the discoveries continue to be both astonishing and perplexing. The tomb, known as KV-62, was small compared to others in the valley, yet it contained a treasure trove of unimaginable wealth and artifacts, all pointing to the boy king's prominence despite his brief reign. But as time has passed, new findings have begun to emerge. Findings that suggest even more secrets may be hidden in plain sight. At first glance, Tutankhamun's tomb seemed to offer all the answers. Tutankhamun was buried with immense wealth, including gold, statues, clothing, and intricate jewelry. But something about the tomb's layout raised more questions than answers. The tomb, though rich in material wealth, was remarkably modest in its architectural design compared to the elaborate tombs of other pharaohs. Why was Tutankhamun's tomb so small, and why were so many of the riches inside simply hastily placed? For decades, historians have pondered the origins of this tomb. The prevailing belief was that Tutankhamun's early death had been unexpected. He died young, at just 18 or 19, possibly due to a natural illness, an accident, or even a blow to the head. Because of his sudden and early death, it's thought that the tomb was quickly constructed as an afterthought, with treasures being hastily arranged to ensure the young king's journey to the afterlife. But new discoveries have challenged these assumptions, pushing us to reconsider our understanding of Tutankhamun's tomb and his legacy. The first major clue came in 2005 when a team led by Zahi Hawass, one of Egypt's foremost archaeologists, discovered a hidden door behind the tomb's northern wall. Could this be the entrance to another chamber, one that might hold more treasures, or even something far more extraordinary? For years, archaeologists had speculated that there might be a hidden chamber within Tutankhamun's tomb, but this discovery brought those theories into sharper focus. Could this room be connected to Nefertiti, the legendary queen and potential mother-in-law of Tutankhamun? Some had long believed that Nefertiti's tomb lay hidden somewhere in the Valley of the Kings. Could she, too, have been buried within Tutankhamun's final resting place? There were many questions to answer, and the discovery of this hidden doorway only intensified the mystery. In 2015, a major development arrived. High-resolution scans revealed that the walls of the tomb were indeed concealing a hidden void. The use of ground-penetrating radar provided compelling evidence of an unexplored chamber behind the tomb's northern wall. Speculation ran wild. Was it Nefertiti's tomb that lay behind the walls? Did she have a secret connection to the boy king that had been concealed for centuries? While the void behind the northern wall remained a tantalizing mystery, other new findings have brought to light even more clues about Tutankhamun's life and his reign. For instance, new genetic studies have revealed that Tutankhamun's family was plagued by health problems. Many of the bodies found in the royal tombs near Tutankhamun's were related, revealing a lineage plagued by genetic disorders and debilitating health conditions. Tutankhamun himself suffered from several debilitating illnesses, including a clubfoot, which made it difficult for him to walk. He was also plagued by other ailments, some of which may have contributed to his early death. This discovery has forced archaeologists and geneticists to reconsider the health and well-being of the royal family. But more than that, it also raises a profound question about the way the Egyptians viewed their kings. Did they see Tutankhamun's physical frailty as a sign of divine imperfection? Could this have had any bearing on the strange circumstances surrounding his death and burial? Why would the Egyptians go to such great lengths to preserve the king's body, despite his apparent physical frailty? Some of the most astonishing discoveries in the tomb are related to the artifacts that were found with the young king. Among these were statues of gods, gold jewelry, weapons, and even a golden chariot, items that pointed to the wealth and power of his rule. But the question remains, why were these treasures placed in the tomb in such seemingly haphazard fashion? Some of the artifacts appear to have been hurriedly assembled, possibly reflecting the rushed nature of his burial, but also offering hints at a much larger mystery. One artifact that particularly stands out is the Golden Throne, a beautiful piece of craftsmanship depicting Tutankhamun with his wife, Akhenaten. The throne, however, raises questions about the relationship between the young king and his queen. Was Tutankhamun's reign marked by a political struggle, one that was never fully documented? Were there tensions behind the scenes, and did these tensions play a role in the king's sudden and unexpected death? Yet, as amazing as these discoveries are, perhaps the most intriguing aspects of Tutankhamun's tomb lie not in the treasures themselves, but in the mysteries they still present. For example, the use of certain unidentified materials in the burial process continues to puzzle experts. Some of the resins and oils used in the mummification process have proven difficult to identify, leaving archaeologists to wonder, what was so special about these materials? Why were they used exclusively for this royal tomb? And most intriguingly, could there be a hidden message within the substances themselves, something encoded in the very chemical makeup of the embalming process? In addition to these questions, many historians have raised the possibility that Tutankhamun's tomb, although rich with artifacts, contains hidden meanings that have yet to be understood. Could the arrangement of objects inside the tomb hold deeper symbolic significance? The tomb's arrangement was notably different from other royal tombs. Many of the statues and goods are positioned in a way that doesn't immediately make sense, suggesting that perhaps the young king's final resting place was not intended to be a simple burial, but rather a cryptic message left behind for future generations to interpret. And yet, for all that we have discovered about Tutankhamun's tomb, some mysteries remain elusive. The discovery of a hidden void raises as many questions as it answers. Could the final resting place of Nefertiti be waiting just beyond the northern wall? Or is the void merely a part of a much larger, still unfathomed design, one that holds secrets far older than Tutankhamun himself? Perhaps the greatest mystery lies in the nature of Tutankhamun's reign itself. Despite the immense treasures found in his tomb, the boy king's reign was short and relatively inconsequential in the grand sweep of Egyptian history. Yet somehow, Tutankhamun's tomb has become one of the most famous in the world. Was it his untimely death that brought his tomb so much attention, or could it be that there is a hidden purpose behind his legacy, something waiting to be uncovered? As archaeologists and historians continue to study the tomb, one thing remains clear: the mystery of Tutankhamun is far from over. New discoveries are still being made, and with each new revelation, the questions grow ever more profound. What else lies beneath the sands of Egypt? What have we yet to uncover? And what secrets will be revealed in the years to come? In the sun-drenched desert near the ancient city of Amarna, a forgotten chapter of Egypt's royal history quietly awaits rediscovery. Here, amidst the desolate ruins of a once thriving city built by the heretic Pharaoh Akhenaten, lies the mystery of his final resting place. Despite Akhenaten's bold religious reforms and the monumental legacy of his reign, his tomb remains one of the most elusive enigmas in the annals of Egyptian archaeology. Was it hidden away, intentionally erased from history, or have centuries of sand simply covered the trace of his final burial? To understand the mystery of Akhenaten's tomb, we must first consider the man himself. Akhenaten was not your typical Egyptian pharaoh. His reign marked a dramatic departure from the traditional pantheon of gods that had shaped Egyptian society for millennia. Akhenaten, previously known as Amenhotep IV, stunned the ancient world when he abandoned the worship of Amun and elevated the sun disk, Aten, to the forefront of Egyptian religion. He introduced what is often referred to as monotheism, centering his beliefs around Aten, a god that no one else seemed to follow. Akhenaten's religious revolution was as daring as it was controversial. He moved the capital from Thebes to the newly constructed city of Akhenaten, modern-day Amarna, in a grand effort to distance himself from the priesthood of Amun. But his religious reforms did not stop at the establishment of a new city. His policies angered many, including the powerful priesthood, and led to a period of internal strife. By the time Akhenaten died, his vision had all but crumbled. His successor, Tutankhamun, famously abandoned the heretic practices of his father and returned Egypt to its traditional polytheistic religion. With Akhenaten's reforms fading into the background and his successor rejecting his legacy, it is perhaps no surprise that his tomb was shrouded in secrecy. Yet, despite the clear traces of his extraordinary reign, Akhenaten's final resting place remains elusive. Where was it? Why has it never been found? Archaeologists have long searched for Akhenaten's tomb. One theory suggests that it lies somewhere within the sprawling ruins of Amarna, the city he built in honor of Aten. The tomb's location is thought to be somewhere beyond the city's boundaries, possibly in the desert cliffs to the east, overlooking the ruins. But despite extensive excavation efforts, no conclusive evidence has surfaced to pinpoint the exact location of Akhenaten's burial site. Interestingly, Akhenaten's tomb was likely never intended to follow the traditional designs of royal tombs. The city of Akhenaten itself was constructed as an expression of the pharaoh's new religious vision, with sunken temples and open courtyards, a sharp departure from the traditional architectural style of Thebes. It's possible that Akhenaten's tomb, too, was designed with an entirely different purpose in mind, a site of worship and a burial place for a man who saw himself as the living incarnation of the Aten. If the tomb was built to reflect this religious ideology, could it also be hidden in a way that would make its discovery difficult, even for modern archaeologists? One of the primary clues in the search for Akhenaten's tomb lies in his royal family. The most widely accepted theory is that Akhenaten's tomb was originally constructed for him in a manner similar to those of his predecessors. However, because of his controversial reign and the religious upheavals that followed, it is widely believed that his final resting place was deliberately hidden or repurposed. Some scholars speculate that Akhenaten may have been buried in a tomb that had once been intended for someone else, perhaps a tomb meant for a high-ranking official, repurposed to serve the pharaoh's needs. In 1907, an intriguing discovery was made when archaeologist Flinders Petrie uncovered a tomb near Amarna that seemed to be far too large and grand to be simply the tomb of a lesser noble. The tomb had been found to contain several royal-style coffins and fragments of inscriptions that pointed to the possibility of a pharaoh's burial. But whose tomb was it? Could this be a tomb that was meant for Akhenaten himself, or perhaps one that had been created as a substitute after his death? Adding to the mystery, there are reports of a secret chamber within the tomb of Amenhotep II, another pharaoh from the 18th dynasty, which has been linked to Akhenaten. Could the pharaoh's burial be somewhere within the Valley of the Kings after all, tucked away in a chamber never intended for public discovery? If Akhenaten was indeed buried in the Valley of the Kings, it would not be the only time an important tomb had been hidden from view. After all, Tutankhamun's tomb itself lay largely untouched for centuries before it was discovered by Howard Carter in 1922. Despite these tantalizing clues, the mystery remains unresolved. Many believe that Akhenaten's tomb was deliberately erased from history, perhaps by his successors, who wanted to distance themselves from his legacy. Akhenaten's son, Tutankhamun, may have been just the first of several rulers who attempted to bury the memory of his father's reign. The temples of Amarna were deliberately dismantled, the city itself abandoned, and Akhenaten's image was defaced. Were these actions part of a larger effort to erase the heretic king from history entirely, including his burial site? There is also the possibility that the tomb simply remains hidden beneath the sands of time, waiting to be uncovered. New techniques in ground-penetrating radar and satellite imagery could one day reveal the tomb's exact location. Some have even suggested that the tomb may lie beneath the ancient city of Akhenaten, still buried under layers of sand. However, the city was abandoned and forgotten long ago, and the desert sands have only deepened the mystery. Another layer to the mystery comes from the enigmatic figure of Nefertiti, Akhenaten's queen. Some scholars believe that she may have played a larger role in the pharaoh's burial than previously thought. Was Nefertiti herself involved in a power struggle after Akhenaten's death? Could she have played a role in hiding or even altering Akhenaten's tomb? Some have speculated that she may have even taken control of the throne after his death, with her own burial being linked to the search for Akhenaten's tomb. What role, if any, did Nefertiti's legacy play in the disappearance of her husband's burial place? One of the most fascinating aspects of Akhenaten's tomb is the unanswered question of what treasures might still lie within it. Unlike the tomb of Tutankhamun, which was filled with stunning riches, Akhenaten's tomb could contain objects of unparalleled significance. His tomb could reveal clues to the grand vision he had for Egypt, his attempts to establish a new religious order, and even his personal beliefs about the afterlife. Was his tomb a reflection of his deeply spiritual vision of Egypt? Or was it a simple royal burial, shrouded in mystery to conceal the truth of his reign? Despite the passage of over a century of exploration and excavation, Akhenaten's tomb remains as elusive as the man himself. Could it still be out there, waiting to be discovered? Or was its location deliberately hidden away for reasons we may never fully understand? As researchers and archaeologists continue to dig through the sands of Egypt, one thing is certain. The tomb of Akhenaten remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. What secrets lie buried with the heretic king, and why has history gone to such lengths to keep them hidden? Only time will tell if these questions will ever be answered. Tucked away in the shadow of Egypt's vast deserts, beneath the towering cliffs of the Valley of the Kings, a mystery as ancient as the tombs themselves awaits. Among the many tombs carved into the rock, one of the most puzzling is that of Amenhotep I, the second pharaoh of Egypt's 18th dynasty. For centuries, this tomb, though known to exist, has held its secrets close, revealing little to those who dared seek answers. Yet, in recent years, a discovery of profound significance has once again sparked curiosity about this long-forgotten burial place. Amenhotep I, who ruled Egypt from around 1525 to 1504 BCE, is not among the most famous of pharaohs. His reign was marked by military success and the consolidation of power, but his tomb's legacy is defined by something far more mysterious. What we know of Amenhotep I comes largely from inscriptions and the artifacts that have survived the ravages of time. But his final resting place was not found until the late 19th century, when it was uncovered by the renowned archaeologist Howard Carter, the very man who would later discover the tomb of Tutankhamun. The tomb of Amenhotep I, however, was not a simple discovery. It was a tomb filled with questions. Unlike many of the other royal tombs in the Valley of the Kings, this one was different, and not just because of its location. While the tomb itself was located in a remote part of the valley, the real mystery lies in the strange fate of its contents and the peculiar nature of its discovery. In the early 1880s, an expedition led by Emil Brugsch, a German Egyptologist, came across what appeared to be the tomb of Amenhotep I. But when they ventured inside, they found that the tomb had been disturbed. The body of the pharaoh was missing. Instead, they found a series of mummified remains, not belonging to Amenhotep I himself, but to an unknown individual, or perhaps more accurately, several individuals. These mummies, tightly bound and carefully placed, were believed to have been reburied here, centuries after the tomb's original construction. Why had they been placed inside this sacred space? And what had happened to Amenhotep II's body? The mystery deepens when we consider the mummification process used in Egypt. For most royal burials, the body was carefully embalmed, preserved, and placed in an elaborate sarcophagus to accompany the pharaoh into the afterlife. However, Amenhotep I's tomb tells a different story. The pharaoh's body was missing, yet the tomb had not been robbed in the conventional sense. In fact, it was clear that the tomb had been used again after Amenhotep I's death, and yet it appeared to have been sealed carefully. A sealed tomb that had once housed the royal remains. The next phase of the mystery came with the discovery of several coffins in the tomb, but these too raised even more questions. These coffins were not just filled with the remains of the pharaoh, but were also overcrowded with the remains of several unnamed mummies. Some theorists suggest that this indicates a mass reburial, a practice sometimes employed when pharaohs were disinterred to make way for new tombs. This raises the question, who were these mummies, and why were they placed alongside Amenhotep I? One compelling theory suggests that the tomb may have served as a kind of family tomb, where members of the royal family or high-ranking officials were interred after their deaths. Perhaps these individuals, now lost to history, were brought to rest in the tomb of Amenhotep I as part of an effort to consolidate power or maintain a sense of continuity within the royal line. The tomb's secretive nature, and the fact that it had clearly been reopened, may have been a response to the political chaos of Egypt's transition from one dynasty to the next. But it is not just the mummies themselves that spark intrigue. The actual construction of the tomb and its placement within the valley seem to defy conventional expectations. Unlike other royal tombs, the tomb of Amenhotep I is relatively modest in comparison. Its design is not as elaborate as some of the later tombs in the Valley of the Kings, such as the tomb of Tutankhamun, yet it still reflects the traditional reverence for the royal afterlife. Why was this tomb so different? Why, despite its seeming simplicity, was it used in a way that no one could have predicted? Adding another layer of mystery is the discovery of a hidden second tomb, located near the tomb of Amenhotep I. In 2006, Egyptian archaeologists uncovered a shaft that led to a previously undiscovered tomb. This secondary tomb had been carefully concealed for thousands of years. While it is not yet clear who was buried within this new tomb, it has raised further questions about the burial practices of Amenhotep I's reign and the possibility of hidden burial sites throughout the Valley of the Kings. Could this second tomb be related to the first, or was it a deliberate attempt to mask the pharaoh's true resting place? Interestingly, some archaeologists have pointed to the tomb's unusual contents as evidence of the political unrest that characterized the period after Amenhotep I's death. The mysterious reburial of his remains, or the presence of the unnamed mummies, may indicate that his successor sought to conceal the original tomb site in order to avoid the religious and political strife that plagued Egypt after Amenhotep's death. After all, Egypt's political climate during this time was one of transition, and there was likely a desire to erase the remnants of a king whose reign did not produce the monumental achievements of later rulers like Ramses II or Thutmose III. It is also important to consider the role of Nefertari, the queen of Amenhotep's successor, Ramses II, in the mystery of Amenhotep's tomb. Nefertari is thought to have played a key role in the political and religious shifts following Amenhotep's reign. Could her tomb, which is one of the most elaborately decorated tombs in Egypt, hold a clue as to why Amenhotep's burial was treated so differently? Was the decision to obscure the tomb part of a larger effort to redefine Egypt's royal legacy? Some have even speculated that Nefertari, known for her power and influence, may have sought to erase any trace of Amenhotep's reign in favor of a new political order. One of the most fascinating elements of this mystery lies in the mummification process itself. The fact that the tomb of Amenhotep I contained mummies at all is somewhat unusual, as it suggests a form of reburial rather than a straightforward burial. What did the ancient Egyptians hope to achieve by bringing these bodies into the tomb? Were these individuals linked to Amenhotep I in some direct way? Or were they simply part of a larger practice of reburial for the purpose of consolidating Egypt's ruling powers? Ultimately, the mystery surrounding Amenhotep I's tomb remains unresolved, leaving us with more questions than answers. Was the tomb's secrecy a result of political upheaval? Were the contents of the tomb deliberately hidden or altered to protect certain royal lineages? And most perplexing of all, where is the final resting place of Amenhotep I, the man who once ruled over Egypt in a time of military triumph and religious change? As we continue to explore the rich, often hidden history of ancient Egypt, the tomb of Amenhotep I remains a powerful reminder of the many lost chapters of this ancient civilization, chapters that may never be fully uncovered. What secrets might still be buried within the sands of Egypt, and how much more remains to be discovered about the pharaohs who ruled in ways we can only begin to understand? Only time, and perhaps a few more breakthroughs in archaeology, will reveal the full story. Hidden beneath the sand and dust of Egypt's Nile Delta, the lost city of Avaris remains one of the most elusive and enigmatic archaeological sites in the history of ancient Egypt. Once a bustling capital of the Hyksos rulers during the Second Intermediate Period, Avaris was a thriving city of power, commerce, and culture. Yet for thousands of years, it remained a mystery. Its rediscovery and subsequent excavation have revealed tantalizing glimpses into its past, but many of the questions surrounding the city still elude our understanding. Located near the modern-day village of Tel el-Daba, Avaris was believed to have been founded during Egypt's Middle Kingdom, though it reached its peak during the Second Intermediate Period, Dashur 1650 to 1550 BCE, when the Hyksos, a Semitic people from the Near East, took control of northern Egypt. They established Avaris as their capital, setting the stage for one of the most dramatic and controversial periods in Egyptian history. Yet, despite its strategic importance, Avaris's exact location was lost to time. The city was eventually abandoned, and its memory faded into myth. The rediscovery of Avaris in the 20th century was a breakthrough in the study of ancient Egypt. Archaeologists uncovered not just the ruins of an ancient city, but a site that held within its boundaries a wealth of evidence about a people who, until then, had been shrouded in mystery. But as more of Avaris was unearthed, the mysteries surrounding the city only grew more complex. As you approach the site, the landscape seems deceptively quiet. Endless fields of reeds and farmland stretching to the horizon. Yet beneath this calm exterior lies an astonishing tale of cultural fusion and political turmoil. Excavations have revealed sprawling palace complexes, large industrial areas, and intricate temple structures, indicating that Avaris was not just a military stronghold, but a city of great wealth, cultural exchange, and innovation. One of the most striking discoveries at Avaris was the remains of a large-scale settlement that included monumental architecture, lavish palaces, and a series of unique burial practices that seemed to hint at the foreign influence of the Hyksos rulers. But it is the Hyksos themselves, those enigmatic foreign rulers, who lie at the heart of Avaris's mystery. The Hyksos, who were not native Egyptians, ruled over much of the Delta region during a period of instability and change. Their origins remain a subject of debate. Some scholars argue they were migrants from the Levant, while others propose that they might have come from as far as the Aegean Sea. The Hyksos are credited with introducing several innovations to Egypt, such as the chariot, bronze weaponry, and a new style of warfare. These technologies would later play a crucial role in the eventual expulsion of the Hyksos from Egypt. Despite their technological contributions, the Hyksos' reign was also marked by conflict. Their rule was seen as an invasion by many Egyptians who resented the presence of foreign rulers. This tension culminated in the eventual rise of the Theban princes in southern Egypt, who waged war against the Hyksos and, eventually, drove them out. However, the legacy of the Hyksos and their capital, Avaris, continued to shape Egyptian society long after their departure. When the excavations at Avaris began in earnest during the late 20th century, the site revealed a surprising level of sophistication and cultural exchange. One of the most striking discoveries was the city's architectural style, which combined traditional Egyptian elements with influences from the Levant and beyond. This fusion is perhaps most clearly seen in the remains of the palaces, which were adorned with images of foreign gods and iconography not typically associated with Egypt. Moreover, the burial practices uncovered at Avaris added another layer of mystery to the city's history. Unlike the typical Egyptian tombs, which were designed for the afterlife and filled with offerings, the graves at Avaris reflected a much more pragmatic approach to death. In fact, the Hyksos rulers buried their dead in a manner that mirrored funerary traditions of the Near East, including the use of chambered tombs and the practice of placing valuable objects in the graves. Some have suggested that this indicates the Hyksos did not fully assimilate into Egyptian society, retaining much of their own cultural identity even while ruling over Egypt. As more of the city's history comes to light, new theories have emerged about the significance of Avaris and the role it played in Egypt's early history. One theory suggests that the city was not merely a military capital, but also a cultural crossroads, where people from different lands, Egyptians, Levantines, and others, came together, sharing ideas and technologies. Evidence of trade and cultural exchange has been found in abundance, including artifacts from the Aegean, Canaan, and Mesopotamia, suggesting that Avaris was a vibrant hub for the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies. Could it have been a precursor to the bustling metropolis that would one day become Thebes or Memphis? Yet, for all the discoveries, many questions about Avaris remain unanswered. Perhaps the greatest mystery is the ultimate fate of the city. After the Hyksos were driven out of Egypt, Avaris was abandoned and largely forgotten. Some scholars believe that the city was deliberately destroyed or erased from memory by the Egyptians in order to sever ties with their foreign rulers. If so, the question arises, why did the Egyptians go to such lengths to obscure their past? Was the city simply a symbol of a time they wanted to forget? Or did it hold something deeper, something too dangerous or too revealing to be remembered? In addition, there is the mystery of the Hyksos expulsion itself. The historical record tells us that the Hyksos were overthrown by a coalition of Egyptian forces, but the exact nature of the campaign is unclear. Were the Hyksos driven out in a swift military campaign, or was there a more complex process at play, one involving political maneuvering, diplomatic negotiations, and gradual assimilation? The Egyptian sources that describe the expulsion of the Hyksos are often vague, and the lack of definitive evidence makes it difficult to piece together a clear picture of what actually happened. And then there is the most tantalizing question of all. What lies buried beneath the sands of Avaris yet to be discovered? As the excavation teams continue their work, new discoveries are made almost annually, revealing more about this once great city. But with every answer comes a new question, and the mystery of Avaris only deepens. What secrets are yet to be uncovered beneath the ruins of this forgotten city? Was Avaris truly just a foreign stronghold, or did it hold within its walls something far more significant, something that could rewrite the history of ancient Egypt? As the sands of time continue to shift over Avaris, it remains a city shrouded in mystery, a place where the past is still very much alive, waiting to reveal its final secrets. And until those secrets are uncovered, we are left to wonder, what more does Avaris have to tell us about Egypt's ancient past? Hidden deep within the heart of the Valley of the Kings, the tomb of Ramses VI K9 lies as an extraordinary testament to the grandeur of ancient Egypt's 20th dynasty. The tomb, discovered in 1907 by the renowned Egyptologist Howard Carter, is often overshadowed by the fame of others like Tutankhamun or Ramses II. Yet it holds treasures that reveal both the lavishness of the royal burial practices and the intricate spiritual beliefs that permeated ancient Egyptian culture. As you stand before the entrance to the tomb of Ramses VI, you are confronted with a sense of solemnity and wonder. The tomb, with its long descending corridors and vast burial chambers, is a masterpiece of Egyptian architecture. What strikes you most is the incredible sense of finality and permanence that it conveys. This was not simply a burial site, but a carefully constructed passage from the earthly realm to the afterlife. The tomb's decorations, painted in vibrant hues that have withstood millennia, depict scenes from the Book of the Dead, a guide to the afterlife that was essential to a successful journey to eternity. Intricate images show the pharaoh undergoing the trials and judgments of the underworld, an endless procession of gods, and the rituals designed to ensure his immortality. The tomb was meant to house not just the remains of a king, but all the objects necessary for his continued existence in the afterlife. However, the true mystery of Ramses VI's tomb does not lie solely in its grandeur or the impressive artistry that adorns its walls. Rather, it resides in the wealth that was buried with him, an amount of treasures and offerings that defy the imagination. For in the vaults and chambers of this tomb, Ramses VI's final resting place yielded an astonishing array of gold, jewels, pottery, and ornate furniture, much of which has only been fully documented and studied in recent years. The riches found in the tomb have long fascinated archaeologists and historians. Ramses VI, a ruler who reigned from approximately 1145 to 1137 BCE, was not among Egypt's most famous pharaohs. Yet his tomb contained items of incredible wealth, an indication of his wealth, power, and, perhaps, the uncertain nature of his final years. The tomb contained not just the standard offerings and personal belongings of the king, but a diverse array of high-quality artifacts, some of which were unexpected for a royal tomb. Among the most breathtaking discoveries was a collection of canopic jars, intricately carved to house the organs of the deceased pharaoh. These jars were decorated with the heads of the 4 sons of Horus, representing protection and safeguarding for the pharaoh's spirit. Yet what makes these canopic jars so fascinating is not just their craftsmanship, but their unusual placement within the tomb. a seemingly deliberate deviation from the traditional burial practices of the time. In addition to the canopic jars, the tomb held an extensive collection of jewelry, glistening gold rings, necklaces, and bracelets, many set with precious gemstones like turquoise and lapis lazuli, the same stones that were once considered symbols of divine protection. The wealth and beauty of these artifacts suggest not only the pharaoh's material wealth, but also his belief in the eternal power of such treasures. It was thought that these objects would provide spiritual protection, shielding Ramses VI from the dangers of the afterlife and ensuring his status as a god in the next life. But it's the discovery of chests containing an incredible array of ritualistic items, such as statuettes of gods, that adds another layer of mystery to the tomb. These items, although typical for royal burials, appear to have been chosen with an unusual purpose. In the context of Ramses VI's reign, Egypt was experiencing significant instability, with political intrigue and uncertainty surrounding the royal line. The chests and their contents seem to suggest a profound fear of the unknown, a desire to protect the pharaoh not just with wealth, but with symbols of divine intervention. Perhaps the most enigmatic and perplexing discovery, however, was the golden sarcophagus of Ramses VI itself. Unlike the golden coffin of Tutankhamun, which was crafted to impress and to showcase wealth, the sarcophagus of Ramses VI seemed to have been designed with a more somber purpose in mind. Despite its magnificence, the sarcophagus was not adorned with the lavish, opulent symbols of eternal kingship found in the tombs of other pharaohs. The focus was instead on a more spiritual connection with the gods, a belief that the pharaoh's soul needed to be protected not just by earthly wealth but by divine forces. The treasures found within the tomb offer significant insight into the religious beliefs of the time. They suggest that Ramses VI, like many pharaohs, believed that his journey to the afterlife was as uncertain and dangerous as any earthly conflict. The elaborate wealth placed within his tomb not only reflects the power of Egypt's New Kingdom period, but also offers a glimpse into the pharaoh's mindset as he prepared for his final journey. However, as fascinating as the tomb's treasures are, there is a dark cloud hanging over the discoveries. The fact that many of these riches were removed long before they were catalogued and documented. This would not be an unusual fate for an Egyptian tomb. Many, if not most, tombs were raided in antiquity. However, Ramses VI's tomb appears to have been looted during the Third Intermediate Period, a time of considerable political instability and decline. The fact that so many of the tomb's treasures were missing casts a shadow over the idea that these objects were meant to serve the pharaoh in the afterlife. Instead, one might wonder whether they were placed in the tomb as a way to compensate for the uncertainty and turmoil that characterized Ramses VI's reign. Despite the loss of much of the wealth that once adorned the tomb, the wealth that remained has had a profound impact on the study of ancient Egypt. The discovery of Ramses VI's tomb offers a unique glimpse into the intersection of Egypt's royal wealth, its deeply rooted religious beliefs, and the personal anxieties of a ruler who faced an uncertain fate. The extravagant wealth may have been an effort to ensure that Ramses VI would have all that he needed in the afterlife, yet it also raises the question, was the pharaoh truly at peace with his passing, or was this opulent display a manifestation of his own fears and insecurities? As the tomb's riches are examined in greater detail, the question remains, why such an abundance of wealth, and why was it necessary for Ramses VI to be so lavishly buried? Was it simply the custom of the time, or was there something more personal, at play in the choices made for this particular pharaoh? Was this wealth a shield against the afterlife's dangers, or a marker of a king who could not fully comprehend the reality of his own death? The mystery of Ramses VI's wealth and its role in his journey to the afterlife remains an open question. As we continue to explore the riches left behind in the tomb of Ramses VI, we are left to wonder, what other secrets does this opulent burial hold? And perhaps most poignantly, how many other tombs across Egypt still lie hidden, their riches waiting to be discovered, telling the tales of rulers, kings, and queens who believed they could conquer death, but could not escape its inevitability. In the fertile delta of the Nile, where the river's waters create a mosaic of life-giving soil, the ancient Egyptian civilization flourished for millennia. Towering monuments, vibrant tombs, and sprawling temples marked the landscape, standing as testaments to the might of a powerful and enduring empire. However, this empire, which seemed to stand unshaken by time and circumstance, was not invincible. A mysterious period of turmoil, one of the most enigmatic in Egypt's history, came in the form of the Hyksos, foreign invaders whose presence and eventual rule left a significant, though largely overlooked, imprint on Egyptian culture. The Hyksos were not the first outsiders to set foot on Egypt's soil. Throughout history, Egypt had dealt with foreign traders, wanderers, and occasional invaders. But the arrival of the Hyksos around 1650 BCE marked a dramatic shift. Unlike previous foreign presences, the Hyksos did not merely trade or interact with Egypt. They conquered and controlled parts of it. The name Hyksos itself is derived from the Egyptian term Heka Kasawet, meaning rulers of foreign lands. Their arrival was a catalyst for one of the most significant shifts in Egypt's history, but much of the story surrounding their invasion remains a mystery. The Hyksos are often depicted as Asiatic peoples, likely originating from regions to the northeast of Egypt, possibly from the area known today as Syria-Palestine. The first traces of their presence appear around the Second Intermediate Period, c. 1750 to 1550 BCE, a time in Egypt's history when the central authority of the Middle Kingdom had weakened. The political landscape was fractured, and various nomadic tribes, likely including the Hyksos, took advantage of this vulnerability. But how did these foreigners, with their distinctive culture, language, and technology, manage to overtake Egypt's entrenched power structure? The answer lies in both the military prowess of the Hyksos and their ability to exploit Egypt's political instability. Unlike the Egyptians, who had long relied on traditional warfare tactics and weaponry, the Hyksos brought with them advanced military technologies, such as the horse-drawn chariot and the composite bow, both of which gave them a formidable edge over the Egyptian forces. The introduction of these weapons revolutionized the way warfare was conducted in Egypt, and it is thought that these new methods played a major role in the Hyksos' successful conquest of Lower Egypt. It is believed that the Hyksos first infiltrated Egypt as mercenaries and traders, but their true conquest began around the time they established control of the city of Avaris, located in the northeastern Delta region. Avaris became the capital of the Hyksos kingdom in Egypt, serving as the political and military heart of their short but significant rule. The city itself was a bustling hub of trade and culture, a place where Egyptians and foreigners alike intermingled, creating a rich, multicultural environment. However, as the Hyksos solidified their control over Egypt, a deep sense of unease began to take root within the Egyptian population. The idea of foreign rulers controlling such an influential and sacred land seemed almost sacrilegious to the Egyptians, whose religious and cultural identity was firmly tied to their homeland. The Hyksos' reign, though relatively peaceful, was seen by many as an era of humiliation and foreign domination. Despite their advanced military technology, the Hyksos struggled to maintain control over the entirety of Egypt. While they dominated Lower Egypt, the southern regions remained under the control of native Egyptian rulers, who sought to resist the foreign invaders. The tension between the native Egyptians and the Hyksos escalated over time, leading to a series of military campaigns in the south, known as the Hyksos expulsion. The key to understanding the eventual downfall of the Hyksos lies in the Egyptian response to their rule. Under the leadership of the powerful Theban kings, such as Ahmose I, a unified Egyptian force began to push back against the Hyksos. The military revolution sparked by the Hyksos, particularly the adoption of the chariot and composite bow, was ultimately embraced by the Egyptians, who used these weapons to turn the tide in their favor. One of the most intriguing elements of the Hyksos expulsion is the role of Avaris. After the Hyksos were driven out, the city of Avaris was abandoned and largely forgotten, with much of its archaeological significance being overlooked until recent excavations. What does this say about their impact on Egypt? Was Avaris simply a strategic stronghold, or was it a symbol of something more significant, perhaps a reflection of Egypt's fear of foreign rule and the lasting effects of the Hyksos presence? Another curious aspect of the Hyksos invasion is the cultural and technological exchange that occurred during their reign. While their rule was largely resented, the Hyksos left a significant mark on Egypt. The chariot, which became a staple of Egyptian warfare after the Hyksos, was adopted by the Egyptians as their own. Some of the artistic styles and even religious symbols introduced by the Hyksos seem to have influenced Egyptian culture, particularly in the areas of art and architecture. Additionally, the Hyksos' reign is often seen as a precursor to the rise of the New Kingdom, a period of immense military expansion, cultural flourishing, and wealth. Could it be that the challenges posed by the Hyksos spurred the Egyptians to adopt new technologies and strategies, eventually leading to the triumph of the great pharaohs like Thutmose III and Ramses II? The mystery of the Hyksos' rule also extends to the mysterious disappearance of their culture after they were expelled. While they were pushed out of Egypt, there is little evidence of what happened to the Hyksos after their defeat. Did they simply retreat to their original homeland, or did some of them integrate into Egyptian society? Could it be that the Hyksos left behind hidden remnants of their culture that are still waiting to be discovered? And what of their legacy? While Egypt reasserted its dominance after the expulsion of the Hyksos, the effects of their rule were lasting. Could it be that the Hyksos, despite their relatively short reign, planted the seeds of military innovation that helped Egypt rise to its greatest heights during the New Kingdom? In the end, the struggles between Egypt and the Hyksos are more than just a story of military conquest and political upheaval. They represent a deeper tension between foreign influence and native identity, between tradition and innovation, and between fear and resilience. The Hyksos are a forgotten people in many respects, yet their brief reign in Egypt continues to haunt us, suggesting that there is far more to their story than we yet know. Could it be that the mystery of the Hyksos still holds secrets about the inner workings of Egyptian society? What did their reign truly represent, and what cultural shifts did their presence bring about? Perhaps the full story of the Hyksos and their lasting impact on Egypt has yet to be fully uncovered, waiting beneath the sands, hidden in the very landscapes where they once ruled. In the stillness of the Egyptian desert, where the wind whispers secrets of a civilization long past, traces of one of the world's oldest cultures can be found etched in the earth and on fragments of clay. These fragments, broken pieces of pottery, often appear unremarkable at first glance. Yet, they hold the potential to unlock some of the most intriguing mysteries of ancient Egyptian craftsmanship. As simple as these tools may seem, they offer a profound window into the advanced technology and complex social structure of ancient Egypt. The process of pottery making in ancient Egypt was not just a craft. It was an art form, a testament to the ingenuity and ingrained symbolism that pervaded every aspect of life. Pottery was essential for storage, daily domestic activities, religious rituals, and even as offerings to the gods. Yet beneath the surface of this everyday necessity lies a web of questions that continue to puzzle archaeologists, historians, and craftsmen alike. The tools used in pottery making may seem rudimentary by modern standards, but their significance cannot be overstated. They were the backbone of a process that spanned millennia, producing everything from utilitarian vessels to intricate, highly decorated ceremonial pieces. These tools, simple though they may seem, reveal a hidden sophistication in their design and use, providing us with clues to a much deeper understanding of ancient Egyptian society. The tools themselves were as varied as the pottery they helped create. Some of the most common were the potter's wheel, coiling methods, and burnishing stones. These tools were often made from local materials, stone, bone, and wood, crafted with precision to facilitate the pottery-making process. And yet, even with all this known, certain questions remain unanswered. It's one of the most important innovations in the history of ceramic craft, the potter's wheel. The introduction of the wheel marked a revolution in pottery making, and yet the precise origins of its use in Egypt remain shrouded in mystery. Early examples of Egyptian pottery were hand-built, with artisans forming shapes through coiling or pinching methods. Yet by the time of the Old Kingdom, c. 2686 to 2181 BCE, evidence of the potter's wheel begins to appear. The first examples of Egyptian pottery wheels are believed to have been introduced from Mesopotamia or the Levant, regions with a long-standing tradition of wheel-based pottery. However, the exact timeline remains unclear. Archaeologists have discovered wheel-thrown pottery as early as the First Intermediate period, though some believe that Egypt's transition to wheel-based pottery may have been slower than in other parts of the ancient world. Why did Egypt, with its long history of pottery making, wait so long to adopt the wheel? Was it a matter of cultural resistance to new technologies? Or were there other, more intriguing factors at play? The Egyptians did not simply adopt the wheel, they transformed it. The Egyptian wheel, while similar in concept to those used in Mesopotamia, was notably different in design, perhaps optimized for the specific needs and desires of Egyptian society. The Egyptian potter's wheel, rather than rotating continuously, was often turned by hand, a technique that gave the potter more control over the speed and form of the clay. This subtle distinction raises the question: did the Egyptians refine the wheel to suit their specific artistic and practical requirements? Or was there a deeper symbolic significance behind the way they chose to use it? Before the wheel became common, the coiling method dominated Egyptian pottery. In this process, strips of clay were wound into spirals and then shaped by hand, allowing the potter to create forms that ranged from simple vessels to elaborate, decorative pieces. Even as the wheel grew in popularity, coiling did not disappear. In fact, it continued to be used for centuries, particularly in the crafting of large ceremonial vessels and in more remote regions of Egypt. The coiling method, while seemingly simple, involves a surprising level of technical skill and artistic sensibility. Each coil had to be carefully smoothed and joined to the others, creating a seamless surface that could withstand both the rigors of use and the stresses of fire. The question, then, becomes not just about how the Egyptians created these pieces, but also why certain methods were chosen over others. Why did some regions or periods favor coiling, while others adopted the wheel? What, if any, was the significance behind these choices? In the creation of funerary objects, coiling often played a role, especially in the crafting of ritual vessels or canopic jars, used to store the internal organs of mummies. The question arises: did the materials and techniques chosen for these vessels carry some deeper symbolic meaning related to the afterlife? And how did these mummification rituals shape the evolution of pottery making in Egypt?
As Egyptian pottery evolved, so too did the designs that adorned it. While early pottery tended to be simple and utilitarian, by the time of the Middle Kingdom, circa 2050 to 1650 BCE, Egyptian pottery began to incorporate elaborate patterns, hieroglyphs, and even images of gods and pharaohs. The intricate designs were not just decorative, they were filled with symbolic meaning, connecting the physical world to the divine. One of the most striking examples of this can be found in the funerary pottery that adorned the tombs of nobles and pharaohs. Some pots were intricately painted with scenes of the afterlife, depicting deities and scenes from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. These pieces were not simply vessels for carrying liquids, they were ritualistic tools designed to accompany the deceased in their journey to the afterlife. The very choice of motifs, whether it was the lotus flower, symbolizing rebirth, or the scarab beetle, representing protection and transformation, speaks to the Egyptians' profound connection to the spiritual world. But why, with such deep symbolic meaning embedded in their pottery, did they choose certain patterns over others? Could these patterns hold secrets to understanding the Egyptians' worldview, or even reflect a lost knowledge of the cosmos, still hidden beneath the layers of time? While the potter's wheel and coiling methods are well known, the tools used to refine, burnish, and decorate the pottery are equally compelling. Burnishing stones, used to smooth the surface of the pottery and create a polished finish, have been found in great numbers in Egyptian sites. These stones were not just practical, they were often carefully chosen for their grit and texture, and in some cases they were even decorated with inscriptions or symbols. Similarly, tools like styluses, scrapers, and sponges were used to carve intricate designs or smooth out imperfections. Yet the precision of these tools, often made from materials like bone or wood, raises further questions. How did ancient Egyptian potters achieve such fine detail without modern tools or machines? Was there some hidden knowledge or technique passed down through generations, known only to the most skilled artisans? And what of the use of ceremonial pottery that required tools far more specialized than those used for everyday items? As much as we know about Egyptian pottery tools, much is still left unknown. The remarkable survival of so many pottery pieces over millennia suggests that these tools were not only efficient but also durable, able to withstand the harsh conditions of both the desert and time itself. Yet, what of the knowledge that shaped these tools? How much of it was lost over the centuries, buried beneath layers of sand in the passage of time? What mysteries remain hidden within the fragments of these pots and tools, waiting for the right moment to be revealed? Perhaps the most important question is whether we will ever truly understand the full significance of these pottery tools. Are they mere artifacts of daily life, or do they represent something deeper? A glimpse into the soul of an ancient civilization, whose mysteries continue to unravel with every shard, every tool, and every discovery. The more we uncover, the more we realize that the true depth of ancient Egyptian craftsmanship and the secrets held within its tools may still be beyond our reach. In the heat of the Egyptian desert, among the shifting sands that have buried countless secrets for millennia, a singular discovery once captured the attention of archaeologists and historians alike: a chariot wheel. It was not just any wheel, but one that hinted at the evolution of warfare, transportation, and cultural exchange in ancient Egypt. The wheel, uncovered in the early 20th century, was found in the ruins of a palace that once belonged to the pharaohs of the 18th dynasty, and it sparked questions that remain unanswered to this day. The wheel itself, aged but striking in its preservation, lay partially buried among the ruins of the palace complex. Constructed of wood and iron, its design was a marvel, bearing the marks of craftsmanship that would have been a symbol of royal power during Egypt's Golden Age. Yet, even as it was carefully excavated and studied, the object seemed to carry an air of mystery, as if it were not simply a remnant of Egypt's past, but a key that could unlock a deeper understanding of its history. It was not the first chariot wheel to be found in Egypt, but its discovery reignited debates about the early use of chariots in Egyptian warfare and culture. Most scholars agree the chariots were introduced to Egypt from the Near East, likely from the regions of Anatolia or Mesopotamia. the Egyptians, always adept at adopting and adapting foreign technologies, soon made chariots their own, using them not only as vehicles of war, but also as symbols of royal power. Yet the timeline of this introduction, and the way in which the Egyptians refined the chariot, remains a subject of great intrigue. Chariots are often depicted in the murals and tombs of Egypt, showcasing their use in battle and ceremonial processions. The most famous depictions, perhaps, are those in the tombs of the pharaohs, where they are shown in elegant motion, pulled by horses with royal riders at the helm. But these depictions are often symbolic. They capture the grandeur of power rather than the mechanics of warfare, and they raise more questions than they answer. How early did the Egyptians begin using chariots? What role did they truly play in warfare and conquest? Was the chariot a symbol of the pharaoh's divine right to rule, or was it a tool of strategic military advantage? And, most intriguingly, could this singular wheel reveal more about Egypt's interactions with its neighboring civilizations than we have previously realized? Archaeologists believe that the introduction of chariots to Egypt was tied to the country's military expansion during the Second Intermediate Period, and the New Kingdom, circa 1550 to 1070 BCE. The 18th dynasty, under the rule of Pharaoh Ahmose I, was instrumental in driving out the Hyksos, a Semitic people who had introduced chariots to Egypt. The Hyksos' use of chariots in warfare marked a pivotal moment in Egyptian history, and it's likely that the Egyptians adopted the technology as a direct response to the military challenges they faced from these foreign invaders. But the discovery of this particular chariot wheel challenges the simple narrative of technological exchange and military adaptation. The wheel, though clearly Egyptian in style, bears design features that are strikingly similar to chariot wheels found in regions further north, including the Levant and Anatolia. The fine craftsmanship of the wheel suggests that it may have been imported, or, at the very least, influenced by designs from outside Egypt. If true, this could mean that Egypt's early military prowess and technological advancements were influenced by a web of trade and warfare that reached far beyond the borders of the Nile Valley. This discovery has led some to speculate about the possible existence of earlier chariot usage in Egypt, long before the Hyksos invasion. Could this wheel be evidence of a previously unknown period of Egyptian history, one in which chariots were used in ways that have not been documented in the traditional archaeological record? Was Egypt perhaps engaged in cross-cultural exchanges with its neighbors earlier than we thought, blending foreign technology with its own evolving military strategies? While the idea of earlier chariot use is certainly compelling, the evidence remains fragmentary. The fact that this wheel was found in a royal palace context suggests that it could have been a ceremonial or symbolic item, rather than one used in everyday military campaigns. After all, the ancient Egyptians were known for their love of symbolism, and objects often held meanings far beyond their practical use. This raises yet another set of questions. What did this wheel represent? Was it simply a tool of war, or was it a symbol of divine kingship, an object imbued with mystical or ritualistic significance?
One of the most curious aspects of this discovery is its location. The wheel was found in a palace complex that was believed to have been constructed during the reign of Amenhotep II, 1427 to 1400 BCE, a pharaoh who is famous for his military campaigns and his attempts to assert Egyptian dominance over the Near East. This would place the wheel firmly in the period after the Hyksos expulsion. But why would a chariot wheel be found in a palace, far from the battlefields where one might expect to find such tools? Was it a trophy from a victorious campaign, or was it a symbol of something more? If the wheel was indeed a ceremonial object, its purpose may have been linked to the royal court's attempt to project power and divine authority. The idea of chariots as symbols of royalty and the divine was well established in Egyptian iconography. But the discovery of the wheel itself, with its precise craftsmanship and foreign influences, speaks to the broader question of how Egypt's interactions with the outside world shaped its culture and identity. Despite the wheel's undeniable significance, many of the answers to these questions remain elusive. While it offers a tantalizing glimpse into Egypt's past, the true meaning of the wheel, along with its origins and role in Egyptian society, remains hidden beneath the sands of time. Could this be the key to unlocking a new chapter in Egyptian history, one that has long been forgotten? Or is it merely one more puzzle piece in a much larger picture, a reminder that there are still many unanswered questions in the ancient world? As with many discoveries in Egypt, this wheel raises more questions than it answers. What was its true role in Egyptian society? How did it shape the trajectory of Egyptian warfare and royal imagery? And what secrets still lie buried beneath the sands, waiting to be uncovered? Perhaps, like the pharaohs who once ruled over this land, the answers will remain hidden for now, guarded by the shifting sands of time, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. In the quiet expanse of the Giza Plateau, beneath the shadow of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, archaeologists stumbled upon a discovery that would unravel mysteries long hidden beneath the desert sands. A burial boat, once thought to be purely symbolic, was uncovered in a pit near the pyramid, in an excavation that was to become one of the most significant archaeological finds of the 20th century. This boat, along with others found in tombs and near royal burials, offers a glimpse into the complex rituals of the ancient Egyptians and raises profound questions about their beliefs in the afterlife. The boat that was discovered near Khufu's pyramid, now displayed in the Egyptian Museum, was not just a mundane object. It was large, intricately constructed, and surprisingly well preserved. Made from wood and bound together with ropes and resin, the boat seemed far too sophisticated to have been intended for anything other than a very special purpose. It stood as a testament to the Egyptians' advanced carpentry skills and their profound belief in the necessity of journeying beyond the mortal world. This boat, like others uncovered across Egypt, was not meant for practical use in life. It was intended for the journey to the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that the journey to the afterlife was fraught with dangers, and thus they equipped their deceased with everything they might need. It's well known that burial practices evolved over time, but the inclusion of boats in tombs was particularly significant. Pharaohs, nobles, and high-ranking officials were buried with boats that, according to Egyptian belief, would help them navigate the waters of the underworld, a place often referred to as the Duat. But these boats were not simple funerary offerings. They were part of an intricate system of religious practices. The ancient Egyptians envisioned the afterlife as a journey that required protection, sustenance, and the ability to cross over various realms. The burial boat symbolized a vessel of rebirth. For pharaohs, it was also a means of crossing the Nile, which symbolized the boundary between life and death. The river was thought to hold a divine essence, one that could carry the deceased to eternal life. The question remains, though, why were such elaborate boats required? The answer is found in the Egyptian conception of the afterlife. Unlike many cultures, where the afterlife is often envisioned as a passive state, the ancient Egyptians imagined it as an active journey, one that required travel through a variety of realms, encountering gods and overcoming obstacles. A simple burial would not suffice. Instead, the deceased required a vessel, be it a boat, a chariot, or other means, to cross these spiritual waters. While this explanation is widely accepted, it still leaves several intriguing questions unaddressed. For instance, how were these boats used? Were they actually intended to be used in a physical sense, or were they more symbolic in nature? Some scholars argue that the boats were purely ceremonial, designed to represent the passage of the soul, rather than to serve any physical function. Others speculate that these boats may have been meant to serve as actual means of transport, ready to be used by the deceased in some ritual form. This notion seems to suggest that the Egyptians, who were meticulous in their burial preparations, believed that the journey of the soul involved far more than just symbolic representation. It involved actual physical readiness for what might come after death. It's worth noting that the discovery of these burial boats was not limited to the reign of Khufu. Similar boats were found in other royal tombs, particularly in the Valley of the Kings. One of the most notable discoveries was made in the tomb of Tutankhamun, where small ceremonial boats were found alongside the rich array of treasures. These boats, while much smaller in scale, still carried the same symbolic weight. They were believed to help the young king navigate the spiritual waters of the afterlife. But what is truly remarkable about the discovery of burial boats is the mystery of how they were placed in tombs. The sheer scale of the undertaking required to transport and assemble these boats inside sealed chambers has puzzled researchers for decades. In some cases, entire boats were dismantled and buried in sections before being painstakingly reassembled. The precision of the boat-building process and the deliberate placement of these vessels inside tombs suggest that these items were deeply intertwined with the Egyptian spiritual beliefs. The discovery of these boats also raises fascinating questions about the broader context of Egyptian trade and culture. While the boats themselves are typically made of wood, it is clear that their design was influenced by technological advancements from outside Egypt. Some boats bear similarities to seafaring vessels from the Levant and even farther afield. This suggests that ancient Egypt was in contact with other advanced civilizations, engaging in trade or perhaps exchanging knowledge about boat construction and the religious significance of such vessels. Could these boats represent the intersection of different cultural influences? Were they influenced by foreign traditions, or were they distinctly Egyptian in design, with a touch of the exotic incorporated into the royal burial rituals? There is also the fascinating possibility that these boats may have played a much larger role in Egyptian royal funerary practices than we understand. Some have theorized that these boats were meant to serve as literal transportation for the deceased king to travel across the Nile, perhaps to join the gods in their celestial realm. This is supported by the depictions of boats in the tombs of pharaohs, where the deceased are often shown journeying with gods in the afterlife. The idea that these boats could have been used to physically transport the deceased, or their soul, into the afterlife touches on a profound aspect of Egyptian spirituality. The ancient Egyptians saw death not as an end, but as a continuation of life in a different form. The journey to the afterlife, therefore, required specific tools, including the boats that would carry the soul to its final resting place among the stars. As intriguing as these theories may be, the ultimate purpose of these burial boats remains shrouded in mystery. Archaeologists have not been able to definitively explain how these boats were used, whether they served as symbolic vehicles or practical ones. Did the ancient Egyptians envision them as literal means of transport across the waters of the afterlife? Or were they elaborate metaphors designed to represent the passage from life to death in a ceremonial fashion? Perhaps the most striking mystery surrounding the burial boats is the sheer effort invested in their construction and burial. Why would the Egyptians dedicate such enormous resources to crafting these vessels, only for them to be buried in a tomb and never used again? The answer, it seems, lies in the Egyptian belief in immortality. These boats were not just meant for the dead, they were meant for the eternal journey. As more boats are uncovered, and as we continue to decipher the complexities of Egyptian burial practices, the role of these boats in the spiritual lives of the ancient Egyptians remains an open question. Were they merely tools for the dead, or did they serve a more profound purpose, one that transcends our understanding of death and the afterlife? As the sands of Egypt continue to yield their secrets, it's clear that the full significance of these ancient burial boats remains an enduring enigma. As the sun sets over the ancient sands of Egypt, the air seems to carry with it a whisper of forgotten secrets. Among the many enigmas that have baffled scholars and archaeologists for centuries, one of the most intriguing theories is the connection between ancient Egyptian lore and the Anunnaki, a race of gods from Sumerian mythology. Could the ancient Egyptians, known for their towering pyramids, intricate rituals, and vast knowledge, have had contact with these otherworldly beings? And if so, how might that influence have shaped the civilization's history, culture, and beliefs? The Anunnaki, often depicted as powerful, godlike beings descended from the heavens, have become central figures in modern theories about ancient civilizations. Some proponents of these theories suggest that these gods were not mere mythological constructs, but rather extraterrestrial visitors who played an active role in shaping early human societies. The idea of a connection between the Anunnaki and Egypt stems from similar themes found in both Sumerian and Egyptian mythology, such as the gods descending from the stars, the divine creation of kings, and the advanced knowledge of the ancient Egyptians that seems to defy the technological limitations of the time. At the heart of this theory lies an exploration of the shared motifs between the two cultures. In both Sumer and Egypt, gods were often depicted as rulers who brought civilization to Earth. In Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki are said to have created humanity in their image, using advanced technology to shape early humans and impart knowledge. Similarly, in Egyptian mythology, the gods were considered to have given knowledge to humanity, teaching them the arts of writing, agriculture, and architecture. The parallels are striking, particularly when we consider the mysterious origins of many of Egypt's most remarkable achievements, including the construction of the pyramids and the development of their religious and technological systems. One such mystery is the seemingly advanced mathematical and engineering knowledge that the ancient Egyptians possessed, knowledge that would be considered ahead of its time. How did they manage to construct such monumental structures with such precision, using tools and methods that, by today's standards, seem rudimentary? The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, is aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal points of the compass, and its dimensions contain proportions that some believe reflect advanced knowledge of the cosmos. Was this knowledge passed down from ancient gods, as the Egyptians believed? And if so, could these gods have been the Anunnaki, with their supposed superior understanding of science and technology? The evidence of potential Anunnaki influence in Egypt is further explored in the symbolism and imagery found in both Egyptian and Sumerian artifacts. For instance, both cultures have depictions of winged beings, often with humanoid features, which some theorists suggest could be representations of the Anunnaki themselves. In Egyptian tombs and temples, the gods are often portrayed as towering figures with enormous wings, descending from the heavens to offer divine guidance. Similarly, Sumerian cylinder seals depict beings descending from the sky, often in the company of otherworldly objects such as flying craft or celestial bodies. Could these symbols be more than mere myth? Could they represent actual encounters with beings from another world, as some modern theorists believe? There are also the mysterious accounts of the gods of ancient Egypt who are said to have descended from the sky. The most famous of these gods is Osiris, the god of the afterlife and resurrection. According to Egyptian myth, Osiris was once a ruler of Egypt before being killed by his brother Set, only to be resurrected by his wife Isis. In some interpretations, Osiris is thought to represent a being who came from the heavens, a divine, possibly extraterrestrial, figure who bestowed wisdom upon the Egyptians. His association with the afterlife, resurrection, and cosmic order aligns closely with the Anunnaki's role in Sumerian mythology as beings who governed both the natural world and the fate of humanity. The ancient Egyptians also had a deep reverence for the stars, particularly the constellation of Orion. The Great Pyramid of Giza, some claim, is aligned with this constellation, and the ancient Egyptians believed that the pharaohs would join the stars in the afterlife. Some theorists point to the possible connection between the stars of Orion and the Anunnaki, suggesting that the beings who came from these stars influenced the Egyptian culture and its religious practices. Could the Egyptians' focus on Orion, the land of the dead, have been a sign of their connection to an extraterrestrial race with knowledge of the cosmos? One of the most fascinating aspects of the Anunnaki theory in the context of Egypt is the idea that the gods may have had a direct hand in the creation of the Egyptian kingship. In Egyptian mythology, the pharaoh was not merely a political leader, but was considered to be divine, a living god on earth. The belief that the pharaoh was descended from the gods was central to Egyptian religious life, and this divine right to rule was often depicted in temple reliefs, tombs, and other sacred texts. Some have suggested that this divine bloodline may have been influenced or even engineered by the Anunnaki, whose purported role in the creation of humanity could have extended to the establishment of royal dynasties in Egypt. Was the power of the pharaohs a result of their connection to otherworldly beings, or was it simply a product of the ancient Egyptians' need to explain their rulers' divine status? However, there are no direct, undeniable archaeological or textual links between the Anunnaki and the Egyptians. Despite the many similarities in the mythologies and symbols of the two cultures, the connection remains speculative. Some critics argue that these ideas are nothing more than modern interpretations and misreadings of ancient texts, driven by a desire to find evidence of extraterrestrial life and influence. Yet, the question persists. Could the ancient Egyptians have been in contact with beings beyond this world? Could the mysterious advances in their culture, architecture, and religion have been the result of influence from the Anunnaki or another extraterrestrial force? The idea that the ancient Egyptians were visited by gods from the stars is a captivating one, offering a new lens through which we can view their remarkable civilization. It forces us to reconsider the origins of their knowledge and the extraordinary achievements they left behind. Yet, as with many of the mysteries surrounding ancient Egypt, we are left with more questions than answers. Were these gods simply metaphors for divine forces, or were they actual beings who interacted with the Egyptians in ways we can't fully understand? And if these beings did exist, what secrets might still lie buried beneath the sands, waiting to be discovered? As we continue to explore the depths of ancient Egyptian culture, one thing is certain: the mysteries surrounding their relationship with the gods, whether human, divine, or extraterrestrial, remain unsolved. And perhaps, as we continue to search, the answers will emerge from the most unexpected places, changing the way we view ancient Egypt forever. The air is thick with the scent of ancient stone and dust as we step into the dimly lit chambers of an Egyptian tomb. On the stone walls, intricate carvings depict scenes of life and death, gods and kings, animals and workers. But it is one particular discovery that captures the imagination: small, hidden compartments sealed within statues, almost as though the stone itself is holding something back. These compartments, often found inside the statues of scribes and officials, remain one of the most puzzling anomalies in Egyptian archaeology. The statues themselves are typically life-sized or slightly smaller, depicting seated men with scrolls or papyri in hand. Their expressions are serene, their postures stiff, suggesting a form of eternal dignity. But what is concealed within these seemingly unassuming figures? What do the sealed compartments contain, and why were they sealed in the first place? The discovery of these compartments is not a recent phenomenon, nor is it limited to a single site. Over the years, archaeologists have unearthed several such statues, many of which were initially thought to be simple representations of bureaucrats or scribes, the lifeblood of ancient Egyptian administrative systems. However, it wasn't until detailed X-ray imaging and the use of endoscopes that researchers discovered the concealed chambers within the stone. These hidden compartments vary in size, and their contents have ranged from scrolls and amulets to more perplexing artifacts, some of which do not seem to fit within the historical context of the time. One of the most striking discoveries was made in the 1990s when a team working in the Valley of the Kings uncovered a statue of a scribe that contained a small, intricately carved wooden box. When opened, the box revealed fragments of papyrus covered in ancient script, some of which seemed to have been written in an unfamiliar hand. Was this just an oddity, or did it serve a deeper purpose? Was it meant to preserve important knowledge for a future generation, or perhaps a secret hidden from those who would come after? Some of the items found in these sealed compartments appear to be distinctly personal. Amulets inscribed with names, symbols of protection, and even fragments of written prayers. Could they have been intended as offerings to the gods, a way to ensure the safety and success of the scribe in the afterlife? Or was there a more esoteric purpose? Could these items have been meant to guide the individual in the physical world, as some suggest, by embedding hidden knowledge into the very statue that would preserve their image for eternity? But there is an unsettling aspect to these findings. Not all the contents seem to correspond with what we know of ancient Egyptian culture. Some of the scripts discovered are written in unusual, obscure styles, writing that doesn't match any known Egyptian dialects or scripts. Could these fragments represent lost knowledge, an unrecorded language, or perhaps an ancient code that has yet to be cracked? Why would such an important document be hidden away in such a way, concealed within the statue of a scribe? As we delve deeper into the mystery, we must consider the possibility that these sealed compartments were not merely practical, used for storing documents or treasures for the afterlife, but served a more mysterious and metaphysical function. In ancient Egyptian culture, the act of burial and the preservation of the body was intimately connected with the soul's journey into the afterlife. The statues, often depicted with scrolls or papyri in their hands, may have symbolized not just earthly representation, but the safeguarding of spiritual knowledge. Could these sealed compartments contain hidden teachings, esoteric wisdom meant to transcend time and space? Perhaps it was a way to communicate with future generations, or even to preserve secrets from prying eyes. The connections to ancient Egyptian religious practices only deepen the intrigue. The concept of duality, the physical and spiritual realms, was central to Egyptian thought. The statues were often believed to serve as a vessel, not just for the earthly remains of the deceased, but for their soul, which would reside within the figure. Could the sealed compartments represent a hidden means of communication between the physical world and the divine? Could the objects inside these statues have been intended as a means to invoke protection, power, or even divine intervention? Or was it possible that these items were not merely functional, but instead held mystical significance, objects of a hidden nature beyond the comprehension of ordinary people? There are those who argue that these sealed compartments were a form of symbolic gesture, designed solely for ritual or ceremonial purposes. The ancient Egyptians were known for their elaborate burial practices, and it's not outside the realm of possibility that these statues, with their hidden compartments, were part of a larger ritual designed to ensure the safe passage of the soul into the afterlife. Yet even with this explanation, questions remain. Why hide away the knowledge in such a manner? Why not display it openly? And why, given the extensive nature of Egyptian funerary practices, did these compartments remain sealed, sometimes for millennia, until the modern age? The more speculative theories take these mysteries a step further, suggesting that the contents of these sealed compartments might hold far-reaching implications. Some theorists suggest that these hidden items could be related to lost knowledge, perhaps even knowledge of ancient technology or a hidden history that predates Egypt itself. Could the objects and writings found within these compartments be evidence of a forgotten civilization, one that existed before the rise of the ancient Egyptians? Could the scribes, who were considered the keepers of written knowledge, have been more than just administrative officials, but rather custodians of some kind of advanced or forbidden wisdom? In recent years, some have even proposed that the sealed compartments may contain references to advanced sciences, perhaps even evidence of ancient technologies that have been lost to time. The suggestion that the Egyptians had knowledge of things like electricity, advanced engineering, or astronomical phenomena far beyond what is generally understood has captured the public's imagination. Could these secret compartments be a way to safeguard such knowledge from being forgotten or misused? Yet, as with many mysteries surrounding ancient Egypt, no clear answers have emerged. While the physical evidence of these sealed compartments is undeniable, their true purpose remains elusive. Were they simply a part of the Egyptians' elaborate burial rituals, designed to ensure the scribe's safe passage into the afterlife? Or is there something more to the story, something deeper and more mysterious that remains hidden within the stone, locked away for reasons that have yet to be understood? Perhaps the most compelling aspect of these discoveries is the open-ended nature of the mystery. Each sealed compartment, each hidden artifact, seems to hold the key to a larger puzzle, one that continues to elude even the most determined scholars. What truths might still be locked within these statues? What knowledge could they contain, and why were they hidden away for millennia? The answers, it seems, are just as hidden as the compartments themselves, waiting to be uncovered in a future that may be far closer than we realize. Deep within the ancient sands of Mesopotamia, nestled between the ruins of long-forgotten temples and crumbled stone walls, a peculiar artifact has sparked one of the most enigmatic debates in the field of archaeology. Known simply as the Baghdad Battery, it is a cylindrical ceramic jar, roughly the size of a modern-day bottle, with a copper cylinder inside and a rod of iron running through it. When discovered in the 1930s by an archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig, this object seemed to defy explanation. Could this simple jar, dating back to the Parthian period of ancient Mesopotamia, actually be a battery, a precursor to modern electrical technology, 1,000 years ahead of its time? Or was it simply a ritual vessel used in religious ceremonies whose purpose is now lost to history? This question would quickly weave its way into the broader narrative of ancient technology and the mysteries surrounding the ingenuity of early civilizations. Could the ancient Egyptians too have crafted similar devices, electrical batteries? Or were these objects, like so many others from antiquity, merely ceremonial tools, misinterpreted by modern eyes? The discovery of these so-called batteries has left many intrigued by the possibility that the Egyptians, far from merely relying on rudimentary tools, might have possessed knowledge of electricity, or something akin to it. One such object that has become central to these discussions is the Egyptian ritual jar, sometimes referred to in this context as an ancient battery. These jars, often found in tombs, temples, and burial sites, are notable for their unique shapes and curious construction. Some have been found containing strange residues or chemical imprints that have led researchers to ask whether these objects were, in fact, capable of storing energy. At first glance, these jars seem to be nothing more than decorative or ritualistic vessels, created for offerings or as part of ceremonial practices. The Egyptians were known to imbue everyday items with spiritual significance, symbols of protection, offerings to gods, or devices used to ensure a smooth passage to the afterlife. Yet, when examined closely, these jars reveal subtle features that raise more questions than answers. Was there more to them than just religious symbolism? Could they have served a dual purpose, one that we have yet to fully understand? The connection to batteries becomes clearer when considering the materials used in some of these jars. A handful of these objects contain copper and iron, with some scholars suggesting that these materials, combined with certain acidic substances found in the jars, could have produced a rudimentary form of electricity, possibly even the ability to deliver a mild electric shock. Could this be the key to understanding the significance of these jars in ancient Egyptian society? In 2006, a team of researchers uncovered one such jar within the depths of the Egyptian tombs. Upon closer examination, the materials found within the jar seemed to match those that would be used in a basic electrochemical battery. The copper and iron, when exposed to an acidic substance, could generate a small current of electricity, enough to shock someone's hand if they came into contact with the jar's open ends. The implications were staggering. Did the ancient Egyptians know how to harness electricity? And if so, for what purpose? While this discovery raises fascinating possibilities, it also opens a Pandora's box of questions. What would the ancient Egyptians have done with such a device? Could they have used it for religious rituals, harnessing electrical currents in ceremonies intended to invoke the gods? Some have suggested that these batteries were used in the creation of the divine light that was said to emanate from Egyptian temples, perhaps a hidden technology that allowed them to illuminate sacred spaces in a way that modern archaeologists have yet to fully comprehend. But no direct evidence links these jars to any religious or mystical practices, only speculation. The idea that the ancient Egyptians had access to electrical technology is certainly intriguing, but there are alternative explanations as well. Could these jars have been simple tools for practical use, such as for the preservation of certain substances? Perhaps they were involved in some form of chemical reaction, but not electrical energy. The jars may have been designed to hold liquids or materials used in embalming, which could create chemical reactions that were mistaken for electrical activity. The residue found within some of these jars is still inconclusive, and the possibility of misinterpretation cannot be ruled out. Another theory posits that these jars were simply part of the rich, intricate ceremonies that defined Egyptian culture. Their shape and design might reflect the symbolic use of certain elements in ritualistic practices. Copper and iron, for example, may have had divine associations, linked to gods of protection or creation. In the context of the afterlife, the jars might have served a function that was deeply spiritual but not grounded in the scientific use of electricity. For some, the mystery of the battery jars transcends mere speculation about ancient Egyptian technologies. These objects are part of a much larger puzzle, one that questions the relationship between ancient cultures and the sophisticated knowledge they may have possessed. Were these societies, including Egypt, the bearers of forgotten technologies that we have only recently begun to rediscover? Some suggest that the Egyptians may have had a much deeper understanding of the natural world than we give them credit for. Could they have unlocked secrets of the Earth's energy and then deliberately obscured that knowledge to maintain control over their divine status? The truth, of course, may be far more elusive. While the idea of ancient batteries is tantalizing, the evidence remains circumstantial at best. And yet, the allure of ancient technologies, tools, devices, and knowledge lost to the sands of time remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Whether these jars were truly early forms of electricity or merely ceremonial vessels designed for ritual use, they continue to provoke our imaginations. What if the Egyptians did harness the power of the elements in ways that we have yet to understand? What if their knowledge of the natural world went beyond mere superstition, and they discovered methods of energy generation that we are only beginning to fathom today? Perhaps the mystery of these jars will remain unsolved, a riddle embedded within the grander tapestry of Egyptian lore. Or perhaps, as technology advances and our understanding of ancient cultures deepens, we will one day uncover the truth behind these mysterious objects. Until then, the question lingers: What else could the ancient Egyptians have known, hidden within their sacred jars, waiting for discovery? As the sun rises over the arid sands of Egypt, casting long shadows across the desolate landscape, a curious shape begins to emerge from the horizon. A lonely, fractured monument that seems to defy the surrounding wilderness. This is Dashur, home to some of Egypt's most ancient and enigmatic pyramids. Yet it is also the location of one of the greatest puzzles in Egyptology, the Lost Pyramid. Unlike the more famous pyramids of Giza, the pyramid at Dashur has remained a subject of intrigue, its story shrouded in mystery. On first glance, Dashur's pyramids might seem familiar, imposing structures of stone constructed with incredible precision, rising from the desert floor like ancient sentinels. The bent pyramid, with its distinctive curvature, and the red pyramid, standing as the largest of the two, are both remarkable monuments that hint at Egypt's impressive architectural evolution. But hidden among these well-known structures lies the mystery of another pyramid, a pyramid that is known to have been built but has somehow disappeared from history. For centuries, historians have known that there was a pyramid built during the reign of Pharaoh Sneferu, the founder of the 4th dynasty. Sneferu's reign was marked by both experimentation and innovation in pyramid construction. It was during this time that the shape of the pyramid was perfected, an evolution from the early stepped pyramids to the smooth-sided wonders we know today. The bent pyramid, with its peculiar tilt, and the red pyramid, named for the color of its stone, are products of these experiments. But it's the lost pyramid at Dashur that has eluded historians and archaeologists for so long. The question lingers. Why did the pyramid at Dashur vanish from the historical record? Was it simply abandoned, or has it been intentionally hidden from view? Could the missing pyramid still lie beneath the sands, its secrets just waiting to be uncovered? And if so, what could it reveal about the ancient Egyptians' building techniques, their understanding of geometry, or perhaps even something more profound? The evidence for the lost pyramid is somewhat elusive. There are references to it in ancient texts, and some early explorers and historians mentioned its existence, but no definitive traces of its location have ever been found. Some scholars believe that the pyramid was either partially constructed or that it was abandoned before its completion. Others suggest that the pyramid was deliberately erased from history, perhaps for reasons that are still unclear. There is a compelling theory that the pyramid was originally planned to be an even grander monument than the Red Pyramid, but that something went wrong during its construction, leading to its abandonment or destruction. Archaeological surveys of the area have provided some tantalizing clues. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, explorers and researchers discovered remnants of large limestone blocks near the site, suggesting that there may have once been a pyramid here. However, these findings are far from conclusive. The area has been subjected to looting and erosion over the centuries, and much of the original material may have been removed or destroyed. Some researchers believe that the lost pyramid may have been deliberately buried to keep it hidden, or that it was destroyed in antiquity, possibly due to structural failure or religious reasons. But what of the larger questions? Why was the pyramid built in the first place, and why is it missing from Egypt's official record? The purpose of a pyramid was always more than just a tomb. It was a symbol of divine authority, a beacon of immortality, and a gateway for the pharaoh's soul to reach the afterlife. Pharaoh Sneferu, in particular, was known for his experimentation with pyramid design, and the pyramids at Dashur are testimony to his innovative approach. Yet, the lost pyramid does not fit neatly into the historical narrative of Sneferu's reign. Was it a failure? Or was it perhaps a monument to a different purpose, one that has yet to be uncovered? Some scholars have speculated that the lost pyramid may have been intended for a different ruler entirely, perhaps even a successor who never took the throne. Could it have been abandoned during construction due to political upheaval or a shift in leadership? The idea of a hidden pyramid may suggest that it was not merely a structure meant to commemorate a ruler, but rather a symbol of something far more esoteric, an architectural experiment that was lost to history for reasons beyond the typical scope of Egyptian monuments. One of the more intriguing theories centers around the possibility that the pyramid was built on unstable ground, leading to its abandonment. Dashur is known for its difficult terrain, and the construction of large, heavy structures on such ground would have been a risky endeavor. Could the pyramid's failure be linked to geological factors that we are only beginning to understand? What if the pyramid was buried intentionally to prevent further collapse or to erase a failure that could have been seen as a divine disgrace? There are also those who believe that the lost pyramid may have been a deliberate act of historical erasure. Ancient Egypt was a culture obsessed with order, with legacy, and with immortality. Any failure in royal construction, especially something as monumental as a pyramid, could have been seen as a blemish on the reputation of the ruler. What if the disappearance of the pyramid was a calculated decision to remove it from the historical record entirely? This theory suggests that the lost pyramid was not just abandoned, but purposefully erased from the annals of Egyptian history, a form of ancient censorship. If this is the case, the reasons for its erasure may be linked to more than just architectural failure or political turmoil. Egypt's rulers were deeply concerned with maintaining a perfect divine order. Any structural failure could have been seen as a reflection of divine disfavor, a sign that the pharaoh's reign was not in line with the cosmic balance. Was the lost pyramid a symbol of such a divine misalignment? If so, the act of burying or erasing it might have been an attempt to preserve the image of perfection in the eyes of future generations. Despite these theories, no definitive answers have yet emerged, and the mystery of the lost pyramid continues to intrigue archaeologists, historians, and enthusiasts alike. Could it still lie hidden beneath the sands of Dashur, waiting to be uncovered? Perhaps it has been hidden all along, its secrets still waiting to be revealed. The evidence suggests that a monumental structure once stood here, but the question remains: where exactly did it go, and why was it allowed to fade into the desert? The lost pyramid at Dashur, like so many other unsolved mysteries of ancient Egypt, remains a tantalizing enigma. What if we are only scratching the surface of a much larger story, a story that is still hidden beneath the sand? As modern technology and exploration methods continue to advance, it's possible that we will one day uncover the pyramid in its entirety, shedding light on one of Egypt's greatest architectural puzzles. Until then, the mystery of the lost pyramid remains a compelling and open question, inviting us to wonder what lies buried just beneath the surface.